University of Nebraska Cornhusker Sports is right here on 90.3 KRNU and streaming worldwide at krnu.unl.edu. The following is a sports presentation of the University of Nebraska's radio station, your home for continuous coverage of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. 90.3 KRNU, Lincoln, Nebraska.
You're listening to Nebraska Men's Basketball live on 90.3 KRNU and at krnu.unl.edu.
The Nebraska men's basketball team looks to bounce back from their tough road loss on Wednesday night in Madison at the hands of the Wisconsin Badgers. The Huskers will try to improve to 14-2 on the year, but in order to do that, they'll have to get past Penn State, who just upset number 22 Indiana 68-63 last Saturday. And with that, we welcome you to Pinnacle Bank Arena for another installment of Husker Men's Basketball here on 90.3 KRNU. I'm Zach Penrice, and joining me tonight providing some excellent color commentary is Tommy Rezac. Tommy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's kind of cold outside, but it seems like it's a pretty good capacity crowd here. I think everyone's coming to warm up and enjoy what should be, I think, a good matchup as far as just overall skill set and overall size goes in this game. It should be interesting to watch.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. So let's just dive right into it, beginning with Nebraska and their 72-61 loss versus Wisconsin on Wednesday. Tommy, Wisconsin shot over 60% from three in that game and also had 28 free throw attempts. Those are two numbers that really stand out to me, and I know they stand out for you as well. What kind of effect did that have on this game, and what else contributed to that loss on Wednesday night in Madison?
Well, no, Siobhan Shields was obviously the big storyline going in. Siobhan is your second best scorer. He's your team captain. Started 106 consecutive games before missing this game with injury. And I tell you what, Zach, I know you were gone that day, but it was a week ago today where from this very seat I watched Siobhan Shields take that horrendous, that very scary-looking tumble against Rutgers. And this place was near capacity still. I mean, this was late. This was in the latter part of the second half, about 8.5 minutes to go. He hit the floor, and 15,000 just absolutely breathless, speechless, just holding their breath, bracing for the worst, really. I mean, he didn't move a smidge when he was down on the floor. Now, we did learn that was for precautionary reasons, but it didn't look good. And, yeah, no, Siobhan, we knew that was going to hurt. But one big factor for me, Zach, and I don't know if this is getting talked about enough, is Jack McVeigh. I know he's a young player. I mean, I know he's just a freshman, but he was brought in to replace Siobhan Shields. And you've seen it several times. Miles draws up plays so when they can get McVeigh open, he can make threes. And McVeigh only took 5 shots in the entire game. Yeah. So if Siobhan isn't playing, which from what I've been hearing today, it does not sound like he will be playing. But if he is not, McVeigh needs to chuck up some shots. Even if he's not hitting every single one, McVeigh has to chuck up some shots and make some shots because bottom line, you're replacing Siobhan Shields. You're replacing a team captain as a freshman. It's a lot of pressure. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure that McVeigh is feeling himself personally. Right. But he's got to knock down some shots. It's simple as that.
There's no doubt about that. We talked about Jack McVeigh in that game versus Wisconsin. 3 of 7 from the field. 2 of 5.
3 of 7.
2 of 5 from beyond the arc.
That's what it was.
Another 8 points overall. But other than that, he's got to be taking more of the workload. Like you said, Miles does drop some plays directly to him. But Tommy, something else I wanted to mention to you is some of these freshmen are really starting to step up for Nebraska, and they're really starting to impose their will. Honestly, Glenn Watson, he took a lot of Siobhan Shields' load. He took 14 shots, but unfortunately only made 6 of them. But was Nebraska's leading scorer on Wednesday with 16 points. Michael Jacobson, he only had 6 points on Wednesday night, but he grabbed 9 rebounds in that game. And in the last 3 games, he's averaging over 9 points and about 7 rebounds per game. So talk about the freshman impact that's starting to take place on this team.
Well, yeah, Michael Jacobson, you said it. He's been outstanding, averaging about 10 points. Yeah, you said it's 7 rebounds, and he's averaging about 10 points a game over the last 3 games. He had a career-high 13 points against Rutgers in this building last week. And, yeah, career-high 9 rebounds and 6 points. Pretty solid outing. I thought Nick Fuller, and Jake Hammond combined in the 4 and the 5 spot. I thought Nebraska's post presence was really well. Nebraska outscored the Badgers in the paint. I thought Ty Webster had some good drives to the rack. Post presence, offense, and defense, I thought Nebraska played really well. And I think Michael Jacobson's been a big part of that. And then Glenn Watson, I said this to a colleague this morning at my other job, that Watson and Jacobson are superstars in the making. Glenn Watson's just been fantastic. Team high 16 points against the Badgers, like you said. Watson, as a freshman, currently is second on the team in assists and steals. He has 65 assists this year and 31 steals. He's just such a natural point guard guy, and he has scored in double figures in 6 of the last 7 games, and he's averaged 12 points a game over the last 12 games. So he was a little bit slow to start. I mean, there were some of those big games like Miami or Creighton. He only had like 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's really, when conference play started, he really turned it on, and I expect him to do nothing but go up as this season progresses, as his Husker career progresses. Looking for really good things from Glenn Watson today and in the future.
Oh, yeah, very exciting times for the Nebraska Cornhusker freshman going on right now in this season. Glenn Watson, of course, getting better as the season progresses. Now, moving forward with the Huskers, they're now on the back end of things with only 5 games remaining after this game versus Penn State. Now, with that in mind, Tommy, what should be a realistic goal for this team moving forward to the end of the season and towards Indianapolis?
I've heard this was from Mike Schaefer at 247 Sports. He's a beat writer for Nebraska ball, and he said his theory is if Nebraska goes 3-3 in their last 6, that's a probable berth in the NIT. I said it, I think, here on Husker Countdown. I think one of the first games, I think I may have said it in our exhibition pregame show. I said NIT is a realistic prospect for this team. You got a few returning talents in Webster, Parker Shields, and then the new freshman that we've talked about. So I said NIT is realistic. Probable, maybe not, but realistic and doable, and it still is. Nebraska's a game above 500. They've racked up 5 wins in the Big Ten Conference. Nebraska wins today. They topped their win total from last year. Yep. So I think that's important just in and of itself. I mean, if you're taking a step forward, you're doing something right. So I think today is very important. Every game in this league matters, Zach. There's a 3-way tie for first. This league is so competitive from top to bottom.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Nebraska, you have Penn State here at home. You go at Indiana, was it Wednesday?
I believe so,
yeah. Wednesday night at Indiana, Iowa just went in there and lost. So Assembly Hall is just hostile. Ohio State here at home. I think Nebraska can get Ohio State. You go at Penn State. You go to College Park on February 25th. But Nebraska's lost the last 2 at Penn State, so that's never an easy game.
Right.
And then Purdue at home, which is your last chance at a really marquee win. Purdue currently 18th in the country, but they lost to Michigan today, so we'll see where they stand.
But hey, it's senior day. Anything can happen in this building.
Exactly, yeah. First day of March, they don't call it March Madness for nothing. Yeah. So I think that'll be a really fun game, one last time to pack the vault. And then you end your season March 6th at Northwestern, a team that's now lost, 8 conference games? Yeah, 8 conference games. I'm looking at it right now.
Just a total collapse over the back end of the season.
Yeah, they're 4-8 in the conference. Still a decent overall record, but Northwestern had their best start in their first 13 games since the 30s. They came in here, they won, really gutsy performance.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people said that was a game that, could have been, should have been. Nebraska led by 12, let it slip away. So you end your season at Northwestern, a chance to avenge a team you lost to, a chance to get a good quality win on the road. So I think 4-2 is possible. I also heard if Nebraska goes 4-2, NIT is probably is almost guaranteed. Yeah. 3-3, it's probable. So I think Nebraska needs to, bare minimum, finish 500. If you finish 500, you finish with a winning record,
right.
too.
And at this point, a win in Indianapolis would go a long, long way for this basketball team as well, especially if they go 3-3 down the stretch and then can steal one in Indianapolis. That'd be just pretty much a solidifier for the NIT. You would hope so. Yeah. So some bright things and some things to look forward to for this Husker basketball team, despite they're close to 500, but they can stay above it today with a win and improve to 14-2. Now turning towards tonight's opponent for Nebraska, the Penn State Nittany Lions, coming into this game at 12-12 overall and 3-8 in the conference. But they are coming off of their best win of the season, and they are on a full week off after their win over number 22 Indiana, a team that beat the Huskers this season in this building. So my question to you, Tommy, is what are the keys in this game for Penn State to come in here and get a huge win, and how they can carry out what they had going for them last Saturday, if at all?
Well, Penn State is really, there's no way to put it. As far as the Big Ten goes, they are not a good offensive team. The Nittany Lions are last in the Big Ten in scoring, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and assists. They don't distribute the ball well. They don't shoot the ball well. I think I said this again at work to some of my colleagues this morning. I think if Nebraska's able to just stick to their offensive plan, because, what they've done offensively the last few games hasn't been terrible. It's just that they've let their opponents shoot well on the perimeter. This is an opportunity for a team that does not shoot well on perimeter. Penn State only makes 29% from 3. That's not very good, but it seems like a few times that Nebraska lets teams or players have a career best from beyond the arc. So Nebraska just has to hope, and I think Nebraska, you can't bank on it, but I think if Nebraska continues playing perimeter defense the way they have been, which isn't very good, I still think they get out with a win. Penn State just doesn't knock down shots. They've only won once in the Big Ten on the road. That was January 16th at Northwestern. So only one win on the road in league play this year. And I think if Nebraska just makes some shots, if Andrew White plays well, if he gets some backup if Glenn Watson keeps doing what he's doing, if Webster drives to the rack, gets some points, if Jacobson continues to play well, Nebraska just sticks to their guns offensively and just continues to try and find improvement on the defensive side, I think they get out with a win. I think that's how Nebraska wins.
Yep, no doubt about it right there. Now, you brought up the 3-point numbers of Nebraska defense. It's been horrendous the last few games. Wisconsin made half of their field goals on Wednesday night were from beyond the arc. They were 61.1% from three, and they made 11 of 18 3-pointers on a 22 total made field goals. So that's a number that's got to be something that they have to be looking at going into this game. And for Penn State, on that game the other night, a few guys that stepped up for them very, very well were Brandon Taylor. He had 24 points in 32 minutes, so he was their guy, and he's got to be the guy for Nebraska to watch tonight. He was 4 of 9 from 3, grabbed 6 rebounds as well, and had 2 steals. And so this is a Penn State team that can shock you, okay? And then they do play good defense, so we'll have to see if their shooting can stack up and hold up this evening.
Yeah, both teams, Nebraska, Penn State, rate 10th and 11th in the Big Ten scoring defense-wise. They both give up about 68 points a game. So if I'm the Nittany Lions, I'm clinging to my defensive plan, try to get some steals. There's like 3 guys right now on this Penn State roster that are in the top 10 in all-time blocks at Penn State. I think, and Brandon Taylor's one of them. He's number 9 all-time in blocks with 87. I think there's about 3 or 4 Nittany Lions on this roster that have at least 13 blocks this year. So this team gets a lot of blocks.
Yeah.
So if I'm Penn State, I just try to play really physical down low, maybe deny Michael Jacobson those easy looks, get after Andrew White. I heard somewhere today that Andrew White has only made 2, it was his the Wisconsin game was his first game this year without a 3-pointer, and then he's only made 2 3-pointers the last 4 games or something like that. Big Ten teams, Big Ten coaches, to stop Nebraska, they think, stop Andrew White, you stop, most of Nebraska's offensive production.
Yeah.
So if I'm Penn State, that's what you got to do. If I'm Brandon Taylor, the senior, the leader on this team, got to take some shots. Like I said, with Jack McVay replacing Shields, well, Brandon Taylor's got to step up for his team tonight and really take some shots. Great player, the 8th best scorer in the conference. He's got to be on his game if Penn State has a shot tonight.
Very, very good input from Tommy Rezac, your color commentator in the pregame show, but we're going to take a quick break for the national anthem, and when we come back, the start of Nebraska versus Penn State. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
University of Nebraska Cornhusker Sports is right here on 90.3 KRNU and streaming worldwide at krnu.unl.edu. The following is a sports presentation of 90.3 KRNU.
Parker trying to do it himself. Throws up a shot, it's good! And he got fouled! Benny Parker is fearless, only 5'9". The second time we've said it tonight, going in against the bigs and getting the tough shot to fall.
Kick out to Laudermill from the right corner for 3, got it! Tierra Laudermill, 2 for 2 from beyond the arc. That gives her 10. She's in double figures, the 3rd Husker in double digits.
Shields brings up the court by himself and gets the layup and the foul. Shields taking it by himself. Fast break. All the Blue Jay players weren't paying attention. He sneaks past 2 of their defenders.
Penaway up the left side now. Pulls up with a 3. Good!
This place is going bonkers right now, Ryan. Holy cow. Wisconsin has to call a timeout.
Now, live from the Pinnacle Bank Arena in downtown Lincoln, this is Nebraska basketball.
Welcome back to Pinnacle Bank Arena on 90.3 KRNU. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball as the Husker basketball team takes on Penn State Nittany Lions. I'm Zach Penrice, and alongside Tommy Rezac, and we're going to dive right into these starting lineups, beginning with the visiting Penn State Nittany Lions coming into this game at 12-12 and 3-8 in the conference. That puts them at 11th overall in the Big Ten. A 6'6" sophomore forward from Orange, California, number 0, Peyton Banks, starts off the starting lineups. A 6'6" forward senior from Tabernacle, New Jersey, Brandon Taylor. A 7'1" center He's a senior from Brooklyn, New York. Number 32, Jordan Dickerson, 7'1". That's a big guy for Nebraska to take care of tonight. A 6'1" sophomore guard from Chester, Pennsylvania, number 33, Shep Gardner. He averages 13.6 points per game, which is one of the leaders for this Penn State offense. And bringing it up for Penn State, a 6'10" forward sophomore from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, number 44, Julian Moore. And Penn State head coach is Pat Chambers in his 5th season with a 68-87 overall record at Penn State and 110-115 career record as a head coach. Now moving it over to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, coming into this game at 13-12 overall, 5-7 in the conference, which places them 9th overall in the Big Ten standings. As always, starting for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, a 6'7" junior from Richmond, Virginia, number 3, Andrew White III. A 6 foot freshman from Bellwood, Illinois, number 5, Glenn Watson Jr., one of the point guards for Nebraska. And in his second career start, a 6'7" freshman from Gold Coast, Australia, number 10, Jack McVeigh. Michael Jacobson, who's number 12, a 6'8" freshman from Waukee, Iowa, is the next starter. He's a forward. And next, and the 5th starter for Nebraska, a 5'9" senior from Kansas City, Kansas, number 32, Benny Parker. Nebraska's head coach is Tim Miles in his 4th season. He is an even 60-60 in his career at Nebraska and looks to get his record overall at Nebraska over 500 today with what would be a win over the Penn State Nittany Lions. Tommy, some final thoughts going into this game. We're just a few moments away from tip-off. What are your keys for each team to get out of here with a win?
I kind of touched on it in the previous segment, but like I said, Andrew White Nebraska just needs to be themselves offensively, get Andrew White involved. I want to see Jack McVeigh get more involved. When he gets hot, it gets exciting. He knocks down threes, that gets the crowd going. So I want to see Jack McVeigh knock down some threes, keep Glenn Watson, keep doing what he's doing. Benny Parker, he played pretty well the other night. He had 8 points, a few steals, so get Benny Parker involved on the defense. And for Penn State, their bread and butter this year has been defense. They held Indiana to some season lows on offense, I was reading earlier today, and they really contained those lead scorers well. They limited Yogi Ferrell and some of their weapons. So if I'm Penn State, key in on Andrew White. I mean, ask Wisconsin, ask several of the teams that have beat Nebraska lately. That was one of the big keys. Stop Andrew White. That's what Penn State has to do. Maybe limit Jack McVeigh, too, because he's basically taking over as that number 2 best scorer. So limit McVeigh and White on the perimeter, try to limit Jacobson in the post, and then you limit Nebraska's numbers. And if they're able to keep it close, keep it ugly on defense, Penn State has a shot.
Both teams break their huddle as Michael Jacobson meets with Jordan Dickerson of Penn State at midcourt for the tip. Nebraska wearing some very unique jerseys today, honoring Black History Month in a tribute to Wilbur Wood, who was the first African-American player to ever play for Nebraska. Nebraska wearing red at home, which is a rarity that we see for them. Penn State in their classic gray uniforms with navy blue numbers and letters. Nebraska wearing red shorts with red jerseys with white numbers and letters. As the tip is about to get underway here, and the tip is won by Jordan Dickerson in Penn State, and it goes back to Julian Moore, who hands it off to Shep Gardner, who gets us started here in Pinnacle Bank Arena.
Dickerson, the big 7-foot guy, like you said, the center. I'll be interested to see if Jacobson can limit him down low.
Shep Gardner working on Benny Parker, gets it down low. Dickerson kicks it out. 3 ball. Gardner in and out, doesn't get it. Offensive rebound for Julian Moore. He's blocked away. Now Benny Parker comes in transition, and Parker is laid to the deck.
Yeah, I think he's going to get fouled. There was a little bit of a collision there. And it is, I think they call that against Peyton Banks.
Peyton Banks, the 6'6", 220-pound sophomore. They get him with the foul. Just 28 seconds into this contest, Benny Parker was standing on the left side right at the free throw line and was stopping and just got hit very hard and would hit the deck. And that's Penn State's first foul, taking it out for the Huskers. Glenn Watson Jr. trying to throw it over the 7'1" Jordan Dickerson on the inbounds, and he gets it in to Jack McVeigh. McVeigh to White at the top of the key, who sets it up for the Huskers. Now gets off to Glenn Watson. Jacobson, top of the key. Looking inside, working on Moore. Hands off Watson. He's beyond the three-point line, top of the key. White, left side. White will try the 3. And he, off the iron, does not get it. Rebound almost went in by Michael Jacobson, but the Nittany Lions have the ball coming up the left side. Is Shep Gardner, who will set it up for Penn State. Pulls up for a jumper at the top of the key. No good. Offensive rebound, though, to Penn State. Brandon Taylor controls it back outside to Garner, who sets it up for Penn State.
Yeah, good offensive board there. The three ball was way off, but Penn State gets a fresh shot clock here and a chance to get the game's first points.
Garner looks inside. He finds Moore. Julian Moore kicks it out. And now a three ball by Brandon Taylor. No good. And the rebound goes to Andrew White, who gives it to Benny Parker up the left side. Huskers in control. Parker looks inside, loses control of the basketball, and it's a steal for Penn State. Here comes Shep Garner up the middle, straight to the right side. Three ball by Brandon Taylor, knocks it down, and we have the first points of this contest.
Yeah, Peyton Banks knocking down that three. He's one of the better three-point shooters on this team. 27% coming into today. That was his 25th three of the year.
It was Peyton Banks on that three-pointer, and on the other end, Glenn Watson tried a little alley-oop play to Michael Jacobson, but it was to no avail. Kicked out of bounds by the 7'1" Jordan Dickerson, who has quite the post presence so far in this game.
Just wanted to say, Benny Parker looks a little restless here early. He fell over twice in Nebraska's first two possessions. We'll see if he can kind of clean it up out there.
Glenn Watson inside to Jacobson, who is blocked away. No good. Rebound for Penn State up the left side. Now it's taken, and Andrew White is all alone after the steal, and he dunks it down, and the Huskers are on the board. It hit Brandon Taylor straight in the hands, and he just kind of lost control of it, and Andrew White was right there to take it coast to coast, and he was uncontested going back the other direction. Penn State now in control, coming the other way. Garner, Shep Garner, working on Benny Parker to the left side. It's Peyton Banks looking inside. Banks finds Julian Moore. Back outside to Peyton Banks. Banks working on McVeigh. Going on the left block, goes up, and it is no good. Didn't get anything there. Offensive rebound again. Jordan Dickerson. Dickerson kicks it out. Brandon Taylor finds Banks. Three on the shot clock. They don't realize it. Throws up a heave, and it is airballed and a shot clock violation. Penn State seemed to be unaware that they did not get any rim on their first shot attempt, and it was Peyton Banks who was a little confused there.
Yeah, I thought Nebraska played really good on the perimeter. They kind of limited Banks and Brandon Taylor on the perimeter. It looked like Banks had an opening against Jacobson and McVeigh down by the basket, but sloppy shot. And Penn State did get the offensive rebound, but as I said, Nebraska did a good job containing the Nittany Lions on the perimeter.
Andrew White for three. Got it from the top of the key. Andrew White knocks down a three-pointer, and Nebraska has their first lead of the night. Just after that last stop right there, Devin Foster checked in for Jordan Dickerson for Penn State. And now into the corner for Penn State, to the left corner. Brandon Taylor, who goes inside, working on and scores. Michael Jacobson got beat straight to the left sideline. And now Glenn Watson with the Huskers, working left to right. And Glenn Watson moves inside and puts up a floater, and it is good.
One-handed floater from the paint, just inside the free throw line. We've seen that from Watson time and time again.
Shep Garner now hands it off to Brandon Taylor. Taylor gives it to Devin Foster, who just checked in for the Nittany Lions. Looking inside. Foster finds Moore. Moore working, he's double-teamed down low, and he goes up for what looked to be a pass, but he's going to get fouled. I believe they're going to get Jacobson there.
Yeah, that's what they call there, Michael Jacobson. Yeah, just kind of a little bit of slap on the arm there as Foster was working against him. They're going to call it a shooting foul, and actually it was Julian Moore working against Michael Jacobson. And Zach, I mentioned it, Penn State not a great free throw shooter, only 68% on the year as a team.
But Julian Moore knocks down the first. He himself, though, is a 72.3 free throw percentage. So
yep.
The 6'10" sophomore from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's a big guy, but he can shoot free throws well, which is more of a rarity in the country that you don't see very often. But he knocks down the first.
Yeah, it's Moore's 12th career start. It's also his 7th consecutive. So they started him kind of off and on to start the year, but this is his 7th straight start. In those last 6 games that he started, he's averaging 5.5 points a game.
Julian Moore knocks down the second to even us up at 7. As Ty Webster checks in for Benny Parker. Huskers facing a light press from Penn State. They break it easily between McVeigh and Watson. McVeigh's going to go all the way to the rack and will miss it, but it gets the rebound. Michael Jacobson goes up and helps him out and scoops it in and scores. 9-7 Nebraska on top with 16:10 to go in the first half. Now the other end, Shep Garner working on Webster. Now gets it to the right side. McVeigh guarding. Now to the top, Peyton Banks. Now to the left side, Shep Garner working on Webster. Nothing doing. Back outside, Julian Moore. Now gives it out to Shep Garner. 8 on the shot clock. Garner all the way back out near midcourt. Garner's got to do something. 4 on the shot clock. Top of the key. It's Banks. He's going to have to heave it up. But they're going to call an offensive foul with 1 second on the shot clock.
Yeah,
and they're going to get Peyton Banks. That's going to be his second personal, so that's a big loss right there. Peyton Banks averages 10.2 points per game. And that is his second personal foul already as we have reached the under-16 media timeout at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Nebraska leads Penn State 9-7 early in this game with 15:45 to go in the first half. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball here on 90.3 KRNU. Back here at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac for Nebraska men's basketball, where Nebraska leads Penn State early in this game, 9-7, and we're just reached the under-16 timeout. There's 15:45 to go in the first half. And Tommy, some early thoughts from this game. There appears Jordan Dickerson for Penn State. I don't think he does not have any points, but he clearly has a post presence already. Already has 3 rebounds in this game. And for Nebraska, Andrew White off to a hot start, already 5 points, and he's already knocked down a 3-pointer.
Yeah, that 3-pointer, I think that, what was that? That gave Nebraska, their first lead, I believe it was. And I said in the pregame, Andrew White didn't hit a single 3 against Wisconsin. You know that shot felt good for him to come back home here in front of the home crowd, knock down the 3, give his team an edge. So Andrew White is the 5th best scorer in the Big Ten. He's 5th in the Big Ten in 3-pointers per game at 2.6. So one of the best outside shooters in this league. So, as I said, that shot had to feel good, kind of almost a return to form for Andrew White. Another thing that's caught my attention, Penn State has had some second-chance opportunities already, 3 offensive boards in the first 4 minutes of this game. Not a lot of, they're 0 second-chance points, though. So Penn State, they're getting some second-chance boards, but Nebraska, though they've missed on a few rebounds, they've done a good job of reloading their defense, kind of resetting the defense, and not allowing Penn State easy second chances.
Jordan Dickerson has checked back into this game for Julian Moore for Penn State. No changes for Nebraska, but Ty Webster still is out there for Benny Parker. Other than that, it's all starters for Nebraska as Glenn Watson gets it across the timeline and now sets it up for the Huskers. Watson goes to the right side. Now he's standing beyond the three-point line, gets a pick from Jacobson. Now into the corner for Webster. Webster working inside in the paint. Webster goes up for a shot. It is no good. Rebound for Penn State. Shep Garner brings it down. Now moves at the left side.
You saw that a few times against Wisconsin. Ty Webster trying to do a little too much himself, driving in 2- and 3-on-1 situations, not getting much in return.
Josh Reeves, who just checked into the game for Penn State, hands it off to Jordan Dickerson, who we just talked about, and he slams it home for his first points to tie the game back up at 9.
7'1" senior center. That's a guy Nebraska can't leave open by the basket.
Jack McVeigh now gives it to Andrew White. Andrew White looks inside. He's standing at the free throw line, kicks it back out to Glenn Watson. Watson at the top of the key, gets a screen, now pulls up for a shot, banks it in! And that was a 2-pointer just inside the 3-point line, but Glenn Watson using the bank to get back on the board. He has 4 early points in this game, 2 of 2 from the field. Now Devin Foster for Penn State, who just checked in on that last time out. Gives it off to Josh Reeves. Reeves kicks it out, and they're going to say it was tipped. After it goes out of bounds, he was looking for Devin Foster. Tommy, I didn't see that. Was it tipped?
Glenn Watson kind of put his hands on the back of his head. I think maybe just a little bit. Watson, he put his hands on his back of his head, then he pointed to the right as if Nebraska had possession. But I don't know. I think it may have just grazed him.
Glenn Watson appealing to no avail, and on the other end, but as Devin Foster goes up for a shot and does not get it, and now a frustration foul after McVeigh for Nebraska gets the rebound. And they're going to get Devin Foster for his first personal foul. Kind of a frustration foul about 70 feet from the basket right there as Nebraska takes it over again.
Yeah, McVeigh did what he had to do. The ball came right to him. He held on to it, and Foster was just kind of trying to reach in. A little bit too much contact right there, and McVeigh knew it. Just trying to rip the ball away, just trying to stand his ground, and he forced the foul.
McVeigh turns it over now, and now Penn State gets a steal and dunk by Josh Reeves. This light press that Nebraska is now starting to face. It's pretty much being broken by Glenn Watson and Jack McVeigh, but McVeigh has his pocket picked right there.
Yeah, careless play. McVeigh has to know that he's coming. I mean, Reeves was only just trotted right up to him, just stole it right away from him. McVeigh needs to be more aware of that.
Now Ty Webster, who kicks it out to Andrew White III, drives inside White, goes up and scores. Great move there by Andrew White to get Nebraska the lead back. And Penn State coming the other way now. It's Shep Garner with the basketball, working on Ty Webster. Now hands it off to Devin Foster. Foster weaves his way inside over Hammond, who just checked into the game for the Huskers, and he doesn't get it. Rebound Ty Webster. Huskers flying up the floor everywhere. Webster moves to the right side. Now he's going to kick it out into the corner. Andrew White thought about a 3, doesn't take it, gives it to Jack McVeigh, who works inside. McVeigh loses the basketball again, and they're on the floor in a scrum. The ball is still loose, and it's going to be saved, and the refs are going to say it's out of bounds off of Jack McVeigh.
It's off Jake Hammond, actually.
Off of Hammond.
Yeah, the player that just fell on the floor, that's Devin Foster. He threw it off of Hammond's leg when the ball was still live, hit Hammond basically right in the knee, and then just bounced out of bounds. The crowd was kind of grumbling, but easy to see up here. Jacobson and McVeigh dove for it. It was on the near side on the opposite basket from where we sit, right kind of opposite the Penn State bench down there. And, yeah, Foster right at the last second kind of threw it behind him. Hit Hammond right in the leg, out of bounds. Genius play on the defense by Penn State.
Nick Fuller and Benny Parker check in for the Huskers as Glenn Watson and Jack McVeigh check out. Into the corner for Penn State. Now we're going to give it out outside to Brandon Taylor. Taylor kicks it out. Josh Reeves thought about a three. Zemgulis, who just checked into the game. Davis Zemgulis out of Lithuania. And now we're going to have a traveling violation.
Yeah, kind of some sloppy offense here by Penn State. I mean, it's no. I said that they're like last in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, scoring, and ball movement. They're last in number of assists in the Big Ten, and yeah, they just don't distribute the ball very well. They look kind of a little out of sync, a little bit impatient. As I said, they've been able to pull down rebounds. I said not much second chance points, and Nebraska just kind of staying at home, nothing fancy. Just playing physical defense, doing their assignments, and not giving Penn State easy opportunities.
They get Julian Moore with the traveling violation as Nick Fuller inbounds it to Benny Parker, who faces no pressure coming up the floor against Penn State. Now Parker gives it to Hammond. Hammond to the right side. Andrew White, who drives all the way to the rack for a dunk and one. Andrew White explodes to the hoop and goes up for a monster dunk and one. He'll go to the free throw line. Andrew White has a chance to get into double figures this early into the game and puts Nebraska up 15-11 with 12:42 to go in this first half. They're going to get Josh Reeves for Penn State on the foul, his first personal, the team's fourth, as Andrew White III goes to the free throw line for Nebraska.
Yeah, so if Nebraska wanted to return to form and take control of this game offensively, just put the ball in the hands of the player you trust most, put the ball in the hands of the player that will give you the most points, and it's Andrew White. Already, as you said, 10 points. We still got 12:40 to go in the first half. A return to form is what I said earlier. Andrew White is feeling himself.
Shep Garner drives up the floor, facing a little bit of pressure from Nebraska, but they're going to get Nick Fuller with a foul. Maybe a little too much contact there as they were trying to pressure Penn State as they came up the floor. Now Davis and Gulas will inbound it to Shep Garner. Garner working on Parker. Gets a screen from Brandon Taylor. Pulls up Garner, top of the key from the wing, and got it. Two-pointer just beyond the free throw line. And Penn State gets 2 points back, 16-13. Nebraska still leads it. Ty Webster left side. Gets a screen from Hammond. Gets it outside to Andrew White, who drives to the hoop again. Up and under and good. Andrew White with 12.
Way too easy. He was in the left corner, kind of looking for someone to pass to. Had a wide open lane from the left corner down the baseline, right to the glass. Very easy, too, for Andrew White.
Now it is Brandon Taylor for Penn State, who pulls up for a jumper. No good, but the putback is there by Josh Reeves, who climbs the ladder for the putback. Penn State hanging in there despite Andrew White's tremendous scoring outburst going on right now. And now Nebraska up the floor. Benny Parker on the left side working it with Ty Webster. Now gives it back to Webster, who has his pass to Nick Fuller tipped, but Webster ends back up with it. Left side, it's Benny Parker. Parker gives it to Andrew White. White, 6 on the shot clock now. Nick Fuller moves inside to Hammond. Hammond turnaround shot is good.
Oh, great find. Right outside the circle, Jake Hammond. Nice little one-handed shot. Had 6 rebounds and 2 blocks against Wisconsin, only 15 minutes the other day. So, that's only Hammond's 4th and 5th points of the year.
Josh Reeves now working on Andrew White. Kicks it to the right side to Josh Reeves. Now inside, it's Julian Moore. Goes up with it. No good. Rebound goes to Zemgulis, who puts it back up. And it is good. Zemgulis works onto the board for the first time tonight. Penn State keeps coming back and countering these Nebraska points. Benny Parker standing right in front of the Penn State bench on the left side. Now gets it to the top. Andrew White. White in trouble. Kicks it to the right side. It's Ty Webster. Webster looking inside for Hammond. Nothing doing. Webster works under. Kicks it out. Benny Parker. Now back to Andrew White. 8 on the shot clock. Nebraska going late to the shot clock the last 2 possessions. Benny Parker weaves inside. Holds up a prayer. No good. Rebound Hammond, who has it now. Kicks it back out. Andrew White pulls up. 3 ball for White. Yes, sir. Andrew White putting on a show. 15 points. 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. 6 of 7 from the field. Andrew White is feeling it early in Lincoln.
That looks like the top 5 Big Ten scorer that Nebraska's familiar with. Return to form. I'm going to keep saying it. Andrew White is back.
Now Shep Gardner pulls up for a 3, and it is airballed out of bounds. 17 seconds on the shot clock, and he pulls up for a 3. Pretty well contested, and Shep Gardner finds nothing. And Andrew White the third, there's nothing else you can say with 15 points early in this game as we have reached the under 12 media timeout. Nebraska leads Penn State 23-17 with 10:07 to go in this first half. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball here on 90.3 KRNU.
You're listening to Nebraska Cornhusker basketball on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu.
Back at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac here on 90.3 KRNU, where the Nebraska men's basketball team leads Penn State 23-17. Tommy, Nebraska is shooting an excellent 67% from the field and 67% from 3. Unbelievable start right now for the Huskers.
Yeah, last year the only time Nebraska played Penn State was in-state college when the Nittany Lions won by double digits. Nebraska in that game only scored 13 points in the first half and a lowly 29% from the field. So, yeah, definitely an improvement, obviously, over last year's game. But, yeah, Andrew White, just unbelievable. 6 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc, 15 points. That's a game high by a mile. The next highest scorer on both teams is Glenn Watson with 4, and then Josh Reeves with 4 for the Nittany Lions. So Andrew White simply taking over this game. And you said it, Josh Reeves is the guard that is defending, or at least trying to defend Andrew White, but Andrew White clearly the superior player in that matchup. As you said, he's just tearing him loose, and everything he's taking, it seems like, is going in for Andrew White.
Penn State has very evenly distributed scoring right now, actually. They've played 8 different players in this game, and all but 1 have scored, and that one is Devin Foster. So very evenly distributed scoring for Penn State right now as Nebraska inbounds the ball. Benny Parker gets it across the timeline. Him and Nick Fuller worked against that light Penn State pressure to get it across. And now Benny Parker gets a screen from Fuller, still working at the top. Penn State seems to have switched to a 2-3 zone here, which is confusing the Huskers a little bit. Now to Nick Fuller on the right side. Now to the top of the key, it's Webster. Left side, Andrew White the third. Back to Webster. Webster thinks about a 3, nothing doing. Goes inside. Now the kick to Nick Fuller, who goes up and is blocked by Jordan Dickerson, who says none of that. And Nebraska gets a shot clock violation right there. Nebraska sees the first of the 2-3 zone today, and it results in a shot clock violation. So very good defense right there by Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State 104 blocks on the year. That's compared to Nebraska's 76. That's one thing Penn State does well. They get their hand on some basketballs and block shots.
Devin Foster at the top of the key working on Webster. Now kicks it to Simgulis. Now to the left side, it's Shep Gardner who gives it to Brandon Taylor, who works it all the way inside. Now he did step on the baseline. He did.
Yep.
As he kicked it out to Devin Foster, who was open for a 3-pointer, but Brandon Taylor stepped on the end line, who was forced out of bounds by Nick Fuller, as Fuller will come out of the game, and Jack McVeigh, the freshman, who checked back in.
I think him and Fuller may have just bumped a little bit, or I think Taylor just saw Fuller and just kind of got startled for just a second, kind of stumbled, and that left foot touched the baseline, and it was a decent offensive play. It was a good pass, but stepped out of bounds at the turnover.
Jack McVeigh now on the right side after Nebraska breaks the press, gives it to Ty Webster, now to Benny Parker. Andrew White on the left side looking inside for McVeigh or Hammond. Now to the right side, it's Ty Webster. Webster working on Zimgulis. Now to the top of the key, it's Parker. Now to Andrew White on the left side with 5 on the shot clock. Holds up a prayer, no good. A rare miss from Andrew White in this game, and the rebound goes to Davis Zimgulis for Penn State. Now to the outside, it's Shep Gardner. Shep Gardner coming up flying up the court for Penn State into the corner, and he finds Brandon Taylor, who pulls up for a shot and is good. Penn State 23-19 after that score by Brandon Taylor.
Yeah, Brandon Taylor 4 points in the game, and they've kind of another defensive adjustment for Penn State. They've put Brandon Taylor on Andrew White the third, which is a bit better of a matchup. Taylor's 6'6" compared to Reeves at 6'4", so maybe a little bit more size on Andrew White will help Penn State.
Ty Webster moves it inside, who can't find anything, but McVeigh's 3-pointer is off the mark. And now Nebraska, it was a hard foul right there. Benny Parker was looking for the offensive rebound, and a hard foul. They do get Benny Parker after the missed 3-pointer by Jack McVeigh. And Penn State will end up with the basketball with 8:07 to go in this first half, with Nebraska leading at 23-19.
Yeah, Benny Parker, I said he's been a little almost too aggressive too much Benny Parker. I mean, he's kind of been, maybe outrunning himself a little bit. He fell over twice in those first 2 offensive possessions for Nebraska, and good effort for the rebound, but yeah, hard foul, as you mentioned.
Shep Garner goes up for a shot, and it is no good, but the offensive rebound by Dickerson is up, and he scores. Jordan Dickerson, 7'1", is a presence inside. Nebraska can't deal with him. He scores again. It's a 2-point game.
Yeah, Jake Hammond just stood there with his hands up. There wasn't really much he could do. Dickerson just easy kind of pivot on his foot, put up a shot, easy 2.
Ty Webster on the right side from Glenn Watson, who just checked into the game for Andrew White III. Inside McVeigh. McVeigh outside to Ty Webster. 10 on the shot clock. Webster on the right side working on Zimgulis. Now they switch it. Zimgulis now inside Webster. Is up for a free throw, and it is no good. And it's saved from going out of bounds by Jordan Dickerson. Penn State coming the other way. They have a chance to tie or take the lead. Shep Garner kicks it. Zimgulis thinks about a 3. No, he won't do it. Garner to the right side now. He finds Brandon Taylor. Taylor inside, outside. Zimgulis for 3. In and out. Rebound. Glenn Watson, the freshman, who takes it up for Nebraska and will slow it down.
Nebraska hasn't scored for about 3.5 minutes, and they've missed their last 4 shots and only one of their last 6.
Now Ty Webster at the top. Jack McVeigh. Now he loses it out of bounds off of his knee, and it's going to go back to Penn State after the media timeout of under 8. It was all Penn State there in the last 2 minutes, or about 3.5 minutes now. It's been all Penn State. Nebraska, though, clinging to a 23-21 lead with 6:49 to go in this first half. Don't go away. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
You're listening to Nebraska Cornhusker basketball on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu.
Back here at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac, where Nebraska leads Penn State 23-21 with 6:49 to go in this first half. Tommy, you just mentioned it between the break, a pretty clean game so far as fouls are concerned. Only 7 total fouls in this game. And when we're approaching late in the first half, only 4 team fouls for Penn State and 3 for Nebraska.
Yeah, I was just going to say this game started at 5. It's 5:30. I saw the game clock when we went to break. I'm like, it's got to be pushing almost 6 right now. It's only 5:30. So, yeah, the game's gone by really quick. Pretty smooth offensively for both teams. Both teams shooting over 40%. And, not a lot of fouls. But turnovers have kind of picked up a little bit now, each team with 5 of those. So that's kind of stopped play a little bit. But, yeah, as you said, both teams playing pretty clean. Not a lot of bumping and banging going on down by the basket as of right now. But, going back to that last sequence, you said it was all Penn State, and really, I mean, Penn State wasn't just draining shots. They made a few. It looks like they've cleaned up some of their mistakes on offense, but the big part of this is, as you said, Penn State switched to that 2-3 zone, and Ty Webster in particular looked really confused. I mean, Webster was just kind of dribbling around, taking desperation shots, not really knowing what to do. Passing wasn't as smooth for Nebraska, and then McVeigh chucked up a 3 that wasn't good, so I think Nebraska's offense is just going to regroup. We've seen Nebraska adjust to the zone. They struggled with it earlier this year, but Nebraska, they've faced the zone defense several times in their conference slate, so I think they'll adjust to it. But Nebraska needs to break the scoring drought. They haven't scored for 3 minutes and 38 seconds.
Bakari Evelyn checks in for Nebraska in between the timeout, a rare face to see in the first half at Pinnacle Bank, but he's in there. And for Penn State, Isaiah Washington checks in as well, along with Julian Moore, checks in for Jordan Dickerson.
I've noticed Miles brings them in whenever they want to press just a little bit more, and that seems what they're doing. Nebraska playing the 2-3 zone defense. They put Evelyn kind of there in the front court.
Brandon Taylor on the right side finds Josh Reeves, who works it back outside. Now gets it, tries to find inside to Moore, but it's stolen away by Andrew White, who will go all the way to the rack, but now hands it off, and he loses the basketball. He was looking for Michael Jacobson. Penn State the other way. Now it's to Josh Reeves, who slams it home. Josh Reeves.
Can you believe that ball movement, Zach Penrice? It was Foster to Reeves, back to Foster, so a little bounce pass, and then a jam. They just tricked Nebraska. Beautiful passing.
A great 2-on-1 right there, and now Glenn Watson was looking for Jacobson underneath, but can't find him, and now Glenn Watson steals it away. It's just steals everywhere for him in this game, and now Glenn Watson all the way to the rack. He can't get it, and now it's going to be out of bounds, and it's going to stay with Nebraska. I thought Andrew White came in a little too hard there looking for a rebound off of the Glenn Watson miss, but there have been 4 turnovers here in the first minute since we've come back from timeout there, Tommy.
Yeah, Isaiah Washington was the player that dove in there for the defensive rebound. Like you said, Andrew White coming in with a full head of steam, but Glenn Watson, we've seen it a few times, particularly I think it was Rutgers. He had trouble finishing at the rim. Watson shot 4 of 12 that day. and a lot of them were open looks. So that's one thing Watson needs to do is finish at the rim.
Glenn Watson 3-ball is no good. Rebound to Josh Reeves. It's a tie ball game at 23 with 5:40 to go in the first half. Penn State has a chance to take their first lead since there were 17 minutes to go in this first half.
They're on a 6-0 run over the last 3 minutes.
And now to the left side, it's Josh Reeves, who into the corner to Isaiah Washington. Back outside Reeves, who's working on Bakari Evelyn. Inside, it's Taylor. Taylor working on Jacobson. Now Taylor moves inside, 6 on the shot clock, kicks it outside, and it's going to be driven in. Back outside Taylor with 2. He shoots up a 3, and it is good.
How did that go in? I mean, it was just a fadeaway. Brandon Taylor, about a 31-footer or so, working against Glenn Watson. Kind of a mismatch there. Brandon Taylor's 6'6", but beautiful shot. That gives Penn State the lead back for, like you said, first time in a while.
A 9-0 run for Penn State. Now it's Evelyn at the top of the key. Now gives it to McVeigh. McVeigh to the left side. It is Glenn Watson who kicks it back out. Michael Jacobson trying to make something happen. Jacobson works inside. Oh, a great pump fake by Michael Jacobson, and he has an easy lay-in. He completely fooled Julian Moore for Penn State for the easy lay-in, and Michael Jacobson gets on the board. Now Penn State coming up. They're flying up the court. The tempo is very much increasing here in Pinnacle Bank Arena. Josh Reeves will slow it down now. Nebraska seems to have moved to a 2-3 zone of their own. And now Penn State trying to break that. Inside to Taylor, working on McVeigh. Brandon Taylor can't find anything. Now tries to kick it out. It's almost stolen, but Penn State maintains it. 2 seconds on the shot clock. Now a bomb, and it goes down.
Oh, my goodness.
Devin Foster with a bomb. Almost near midcourt. He was standing on the logo, and that went down.
Right about 35 feet or so. Unbelievable shot right at the buzzer.
Oh, that's an absolute dagger for Penn State that they just did right against Nebraska. And now Andrew White has his pass stolen, and it's on the floor, and Nebraska will maintain it. Bakari Evelyn into the corner. Michael Jacobson saves the day on the court.
Yeah, great job by Jacobson. Dove on the floor, secured the ball.
Evelyn for 3. No good. Rebound Penn State. Julian Moore. Now gets it off to Josh Reeves. Nebraska has got to figure something out here and quick. 29-25, Penn State leads it. Now to the top, it's Foster. Finds Isaiah Washington, back to the top. Josh Reeves into the corner now. And now back up top, Devin Foster. Facing against the Nebraska 2-3 zone. Outside, Josh Reeves for 3. Air ball. And it goes straight into the hands of Andrew White, who gives it to Glenn Watson Jr. Watson finds McVeigh on the right side. Now it's to Andrew White for 3. Off the iron, no good. Rebound for Penn State.
Man,
Devin Foster now up the left side.
Nebraska cannot buy a shot. One of their last 9.
4 turnovers over the last 7.5 minutes. One of their last 9, like you just said, Tommy, and a 12-2 run for Penn State. Under 3 minutes to go in the first half. 29-25, Penn State leads it. Brandon Taylor working on Glenn Watson Jr. Picks up his dribble, can't find anything. Now outside to Josh Reeves. Now working on Bakari Evelyn. It's Devin Foster, works inside, can't find it. Looking for a foul, he won't get it. Now it's to Jacobson, who comes down with the steal. Now Bakari Evelyn slows it down for the Huskers.
I think there's been about 8 or 9 combined turnovers since our last time out.
Turning more and more sloppy now in this first half as we move late and towards the halftime break. Now inside, it's Michael Jacobson, who turns around for a shot and breaks the drought. Jacobson with a great hook shot right there to bring Nebraska back within 2.
Yeah, great job by Jacobson now with 6 points, 3 of 4 from the floor.
Devin Foster brings up the court, and a timeout is called by Penn State with 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go in this first half. Penn State leads at 29-27, but we'll take a break with them. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball here on 90.3 KRNU. Back here at Pinnacle Bank Arena here on 90.3 KRNU. Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac, where Penn State now has the lead over Nebraska 29-27 with 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go in this first half. Tommy, Nebraska seems to have gone cold as of late. Only 2 of their last 10 from the field, and last time we talked about their shooting percentage, 63% has dropped to 48%.
Yeah, both teams 12 of 25. How about that?
It seems it's a rarity you see teams this late in the first half with the same shooting numbers like that, but they are both teams perfect from the line, and the turnovers have absolutely increased as well, as we've seen this game getting more sloppy down the stretch.
Yeah, and there wasn't a single foul either. We last took the timeout at 6:49, so that was about 4.5 minutes without a single foul. But there was also, at our last timeout, each team had 5 turnovers, so there were 6 combined turnovers between both teams in that last sequence. So you said it, the tempo's picked up a little bit, but that doesn't necessarily mean the shots have been falling. I mean, Penn State, they've made enough to kind of keep a lead, but Nebraska's missed a lot of shots, and both teams, as I said, kind of picked it up turnover-wise.
Devin Foster inbounds it into the corner. It's Isaiah Washington who now takes a three in and out. Rebound, Michael Jacobson. Isaiah Washington had a good look there, but he can't get the three-pointer to fall. Now Glenn Watson Jr. slows it down and brings it up for the Huskers. Huskers looking to tie or take the lead here. Watson now out of the right block to Jacobson. Now pulls up on the left block. It's Glenn Watson who doesn't get the shot to fall, and Penn State has the rebound now. Shep Garner moving it up for Penn State down the right side. Garner looks inside, now finds into the corner. It is Brandon Taylor who goes all the way inside, now looking and working on McVeigh. Gets a shot up, and it rolls around and down.
Nice spin move down there in the paint against McVeigh. Kind of was right up in his face, kind of spun around, step back, fade away two from about 5 or 6 feet out. Banks it in, gives Penn State a 2-possession lead.
Glenn Watson looking inside, now finds on the right block. It's Jacobson, but it is no good again. Nebraska stays cold from the field.
Throwing up bricks.
Penn State now, Devin Foster moves across the timeline. Penn State slowing it down with just over a minute to go in this first half. Gets a screen from Shep Garner. Won't take it. Now to the right side, Devin Foster as we move to under a minute to go in this first half. Outside, Brandon Taylor with a deep three. No good, but it might be an offensive rebound, and it will not be.
Yep, it looks like it will go Nebraska. I think it'll go Nebraska's way.
Ty Webster with a very good block out there on Jordan Dickerson, who's a big guy to block out, but he can do it. And now for Nebraska checking back in. Andrew White III will come into the game for Jack McVeigh.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was looking at the 5 on the floor, and I was wondering why White wasn't on the floor coming out of that timeout. But with 50 seconds to go, this is an important possession. It looks like Penn State might get last shot, but Nebraska, this possession here, get it back within one score. I think try to find Andrew White.
Glenn Watson inside to Jacobson, who goes up, but he almost is blocked, but they're going to call a foul on Brandon Taylor. Taylor thought he got it cleanly, but they're going to call a foul against him, and that is his first personal, I believe.
Yeah.
So Brandon Taylor's first personal. Michael Jacobson will go to the line for the Huskers. He is a 80% on the year from the line.
Yeah, only the fifth team foul on Penn State. Only the 8th combined of this first half. Jacobson makes that first free throw.
Nebraska this is only their second and third free throw of the first half. Not many free throws, as we said, as there haven't been many fouls in this first half. That's only the 8th foul of the entire game. 5th team foul for Penn State, as we said, as Jacobson's second free throw is good.
Jacobson really solid coming into today. 40 of 50 from the charity stripe. That's 80%, makes both there. 2 big important points. Like I said, that possession was key for Nebraska. Get some points, get it back within a 1-score game. It looks like 39.5 on the game clock, 30 on the shot clock. So it looks like Nebraska may have one more possession left.
Penn State breaks Nebraska's light press, and it is Shep Garner who does most of the breaking, and he sets it back up for Penn State. Now gives it to Devin Foster, who stands on the logo. Penn State's going to take the air out of the ball a little bit before they make their move. Devin Foster gets a screen from Brandon Taylor. Thought about a three, won't do it. Now to Isaiah Washington, who goes inside and kicks the ball straight to Donovan Jack, who just checked in. Now a 3 ball in the corner, no good. It's an air ball, and they're going to call a foul on Penn State.
I think, who did they get there? I think is it Jordan Dickerson? I think it was away from the ball, kind of on the far boundary in front of the Nebraska bench is where they blew the whistle.
Josh Reeves missed the 3, and they're going to get Isaiah Washington for the foul there. That is Isaiah Washington's first personal foul and Penn State's 6th, as Nebraska takes a 30-second timeout, but we'll keep it right here on 90.3 KRNU. 13 seconds to go in this first half. Nebraska with a chance here with the basketball to either tie or take the lead going into the locker room. Now, Tommy, considering the way they've been playing the last 5 or 6 minutes, how big would it be to get a tie going to the locker room?
Or, yeah, even the lead. I mean, just as something to kind of get the crowd back into it. This place was pretty rocking those first 10 minutes. In the last 10 minutes, that's when we kind of saw this scoring drought start. Nebraska still only 2 of their last 12 shots. There was about a 4-minute drought there in the latter part of this half where Nebraska didn't even score any points. So, it looks like to me Penn State has been keying in on Andrew White better. White hasn't been getting wide open like he was to start this game.
Right.
But, 13 seconds left. You're trying to tie or take the lead. It's kind of desperate times, calls for desperate measures. Even if he isn't wide open, again, I said it after the last time play stopped. Get the ball in Andrew White's hands.
Benny Parker with 7 on the game clock. Gets it to Glenn Watson Jr. Glenn Watson will pull up for a 3. And he gets it. Glenn Watson with a 3. And Nebraska will go to the locker room with the lead. 32-31 sends Pinnacle Bank Arena into a frenzy. I would have put money that they were going to give that ball to Andrew White open in the corner, but Glenn Watson takes it himself for the 3 and gives Nebraska the lead. Watson with 7 first-half points, and that is his first 3 of the contest. What a huge, huge shot right there for Nebraska. But we're going to take a quick break and come back for a halftime score show here on 90.3 KRNU. But Nebraska heads to the locker room with a lead over Penn State, 32-31. Don't go away. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
Well, that's going to do it for our scoreboard show. We'll keep it right here, though, on 90.3 KRNU as I bring my partner, Zach Penrice, back with me. Zach has given you the play-by-play coverage here today on KRNU. And as I said, here at halftime, Nebraska leads Penn State 32-31. And, Zach, we mentioned it, Andrew White really took over the game early. A kind of quiet since then. He's still 6 of 9 from the floor, 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. But how about Glenn Watson hitting the buzzer beater? Watson, a couple of misses there, didn't finish at the rim a couple of times, but still, Watson and White combined, pretty impressive effort.
Yeah, and you didn't see much of Andrew White the third in those last 10 minutes. I don't think you saw any of Andrew White the third in those last 10 minutes as far as scoring is concerned. He pretty much went silent. Penn State figured it out as soon as they switched to a 2-3 zone. Andrew White did not score again in the first half, and like you said, Glenn Watson's 3 at the buzzer at the end of the first half was very huge for Nebraska to get that lead. It's a complete swing in this game. And another unspoken hero in this game so far in the first half, Michael Jacobson, the freshman. He's right near his average in the last 3 games. He has 8 points already, and he's been very efficient down low, 3 of 5. And think about the guys he's been dealing with, Tommy. He's been dealing with guys that are bigger than him, 6'10" Julian Moore and 7'1" Jordan Dickerson. One of those 2 guys has been guarding him this entire first half, and so to come out of there with 8 points is very, very good for Michael Jacobson.
Yeah, Michael Jacobson averaging about 10 points and 7 rebounds through the last 3 games. We'll see if his impressive Yeah, I forgot to mention Jacobson is actually has the second most points on the team and the third most in the game with 8, leading the way for Penn State. Not surprisingly, is their lead scorer, Brandon Taylor, with 9. Brandon Taylor, the 8th best scorer in the Big Ten. So about 4 minutes to go till tip. So another stat, something that Penn State seems to be doing well, rebounding. They're out rebounding the Huskers 18-13 and 6-3 on the offensive side. Any cause for concern for Nebraska when you look at that number?
Well, there could be, definitely in the first half. We've seen Penn State get a lot of second chance rebounds, but they haven't really converted those second chance points as much as they probably would have liked to. And so that's definitely a concern for Nebraska. The rebounds have got to pick up, but like you said, the guys that they're dealing with are just much bigger and maybe even more athletic than them down low. It's been a problem, especially Jordan Dickerson and Julian Moore. If they're even in at the same time, it's a huge problem for Nebraska. And one of both those guys are bigger than some of the guys Nebraska's even seen this season. And so having to deal with those 2 has been a big issue for Nebraska. And for Penn State, they need to start converting on these second chance points, and they might even be able to blow this game wide open. So definitely a concern for Nebraska, and hopefully they can clean that up and maybe start scrapping for some rebounds down low and limiting the second opportunities for Penn State.
Peyton Banks, 3 points for the Nittany Lions. Also Jordan Dickerson with 4. Also contributing, Shep Gardner with 2. Julian Moore with 2. Let's see, going down the list, Davis Zemgulis, right?
Yeah, Zemgulis, I believe.
Davis Zemgulis, from Lithuania, 2 points for him. And also Devin Foster, he has 3. And then Josh Reeves has been pretty decent in this game, 3 of 4 shooting from the floor. He has 6 points. And both teams shooting about 45-46%, Nebraska 46%, and Penn State 45% from the floor. Both teams have made 13 field goals. Penn State 13 of 29, Nebraska 13 for 28. Both teams have hit 3 3-pointers. Penn State 3 of 11, Nebraska 3 of 8. Both teams have also hit all of their free throws. Penn State 2 for 2, Nebraska 3 for 3. And let's see, anything else? Both teams have 2 blocks. 5 assists for Nebraska, 4 for Penn State, 5 steals for Penn State, 4 for Nebraska. Game's been tied 5 times, 3 lead changes. Nebraska's led for 9 minutes and 52 seconds, and they hold the lead at halftime, 32-31. They've led this one by as much as 6. Penn State's led by as much as 4, so pretty back and forth game. The first 10 points, mostly Nebraska. The first 10 minutes, mostly Nebraska. The last 10, though, more so Penn State. But nevertheless, Nebraska hangs on, clings to that 1-point lead here at home. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, myself and Zach Penrice will take you the rest of the way home, give you the second half of Penn State and Nebraska, the 12th all-time meeting between the Nittany Lions and the Huskers. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
University of Nebraska Cornhusker Sports is right here on 90.3 KRNU and streaming worldwide at krnu.unl.edu.
You're listening to Nebraska Men's Basketball live on 90.3 KRNU and at krnu.unl.edu.
Back at Pinnacle Bank Arena on 90.3 KRNU. Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac as we are getting set for the second half of Nebraska and Penn State, where the Huskers lead the Nittany Lions 32-31. Tommy, we had some very good comments there in that halftime show, and Nebraska is clinging. Like you said, it was more of Nebraska for the first 10 minutes, and it was the Nittany Lions for the second 10 minutes in that game. But Nebraska clings to a 1-point lead after Glenn Watson Jr.'s buzzer beater 3 that carried Nebraska into the locker room with a 1-point lead. As both teams begin to break their huddle now as the horn sounds, and the second half is about ready to begin. Here in Pinnacle Bank Arena, we expect to see the starters from each side to come out and represent their sides in this second half.
Yeah, the thing that really kept, I hope I wasn't interrupting a thought there, but
fine.
Just one thing I said it at halftime. I mean, just the things that are so even back to back about these teams. Like both teams, like I said, made the same number of shots. They both hit all their free throws. About the same number of turnovers. Penn State with 9, Nebraska 7. Both teams have hit 3 threes. Just so much identical. This lead's changed hands a few times. It's been tied a lot. It seems like each teams are answering each other, whether it be in buckets or in turnovers. We saw Penn State would miss a shot, Nebraska would go down and turn it over. Glenn Watson would get a steal, and then, Jordan Dickerson would get a steal. Very back and forth. I look for it to be much of the same here in the second half.
Nebraska comes out with the basketball, moving right to left, and now it's Michael Jacobson who will pull up for a shot, and it is no good. And they're going to get a foul against the Nittany Lions as Jack McVeigh was looking for the rebound. It was an airball shot from the right elbow by Michael Jacobson. And they're going to get the Nittany Lions for a foul. They're going to get Brandon Taylor. That's going to be his second personal foul. As Nebraska will take it out underneath, and they get it to Andrew White, who is going to be fouled. It's Brandon Taylor again.
Wow.
It was an inbounds from Glenn Watson looking for Andrew White, who went up and had a pretty good look at the basket, kind of snuck in the back door right there. But Brandon Taylor went up for the block, but he got a lot of arm, and Andrew White will go to the free throw line. Brandon Taylor, 2 quick fouls in the second half, give him 3 total for the second or for the entire game.
Yeah, 2 whistles on Penn State's leading scorer in the first 15 seconds of the second half. Monumental calls there. Andrew White will knock down that first free throw. Big free throws here could put Nebraska up 3 if White knocks down the second. So, yeah, just really lack of focus by Brandon Taylor. That is the last thing. As Penn State's leading scorer, that's the last thing you want to do coming right out of the gate here.
Brandon Taylor takes a seat on the bench as Donovan Jack checks in for him, the 6'9" senior from Reading, Pennsylvania, as Andrew White III knocks down the second free throw, and Penn State will face some light pressure from Nebraska here, but they do break the press. Jordan Dickerson, who gives it back to Shep Garner, who will set it up for the Nittany Lions. Now to the left side, Devin Foster working on Benny Parker. Carries it over to the right side. Looking for something. Now moves inside. Now goes back out into the corner. Works inside. Now outside. Now there's going to be a foul. They were looking. It was Peyton Banks who worked in, and he drew a foul. And they're going to get
that's Benny
Parker.
His second.
Benny Parker, his second personal foul.
Yeah, real quick, you said Donovan Jack coming in for Brandon Taylor. Donovan Jack, another one of those players. He's been around forever. He's been on the program 4 years. It's his 110th career game didn't start today, but he started 110th career game. He's number 8 on Penn State's all-time career block list with 89. Another guy who can block. And
Donovan Jack will go up with a shot right there off a feed from Shep Garner, but it doesn't get it to go. Nebraska moving the other way. Benny Parker all the way to the rack, doesn't get it to go. But they're going to get a foul now on Nebraska. They're going to get Michael Jacobson, who apparently came in a little too fast there.
I thought Donovan Jack maybe would be called on the whistle. He came barreling after that rebound. Jack, not a huge scorer, only about 4 points a game. He's seen action in about every game this year, but pretty decent shooter from the floor, 48% coming into today.
Peyton Banks into the corner for Penn State as they break the light press from Nebraska again. Nebraska applying some light pressure as Penn State comes to the floor every possession. Now to the right side. Now back left. Try a 3, Shep Garner. No good. Rebound, Andrew White. Shep Garner tries a lot of threes, Tommy, like you mentioned, but he doesn't get a lot of them to fall this season. And he doesn't get that one to fall either. Now Nebraska comes the other way.
Yeah, Shep Garner, 48 of 142 coming into today.
Glenn Watson's wild shot gets no rim, hits the backboard, and comes down. Peyton Banks up the right side for Penn State. Now back left. It's Shep Garner who sets it up. Gets a screen from Donovan Jack. Now back into the corner. Devin Foster now outside. Donovan Jack on the left side working on McVeigh. Donovan Jack works inside. Now kicks it back out. Peyton Banks working on Andrew White III. Banks with 8 on the shot clock, kicks it out. Now a deep 3 ball off the iron. And it's going to go out of bounds. It was a 3 ball from Devin Foster, a very deep 3. And it went and it rolled off the iron all the way over in front of the Penn State bench and went out of bounds. Jordan Dickerson tried to save it, but to no avail, and Nebraska will get the basketball back with 18:04 to go in the second half and leading the game over Penn State 34-31.
I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of Penn State's threes have all come from a distance probably about 4 or 5 feet longer, deeper than they need to be. That one probably about 29 feet out.
We have seen some very deep threes, but we've also seen some deep threes go down for them today.
Oh, yeah.
As Andrew White gets the ball into the corner. Now back to the top. Michael Jacobson working on Devin Foster, that is. Now back to Jack McVeigh, who kicks it out. It is Glenn Watson Jr. inside McVeigh, going against Jordan Dickerson. Turnaround jumper is no good. Offensive rebound. Michael Jacobson might have walked with it. They don't call it. Jacobson goes up for the shot and scores over Donovan Jack. Michael Jacobson scores Nebraska's first field goal of the second half. 36-31, Nebraska leads it by 5.
Great patience there by Jacobson, staring Dickerson and Donovan Jack right in the face, looking for someone to pass it to. Like you said, may have taken an extra step. No call. Kept his cool, put up a shot, got the 2, puts his team up 5 now.
Donovan Jack now has the basketball out the left side beyond the three-point line. Now finds Shep Garner. Garner into the corner to Devin Foster. Now back up top, it is Jordan Dickerson. Now gives it back to Devin Foster. Inside, Foster lays up a shot. No good. Offensive rebound. Jordan Dickerson goes up with it. No good. Rebound again. Dickerson scores. Dickerson working against 3 Nebraska Cornhuskers, but the 7'1" body of Jordan Dickerson proves to be too much. And he scores, and now on the other end, it's Andrew White III. The pace is picking up into the inside to Michael Jacobson. Now kicks it out, Glenn Watson. Now to the top of the key, Jack McVeigh. Left side back to Andrew White. Andrew White working on Shep Garner. Pulls up from the left elbow, and he shoots, and no good, but he draws a foul from Shep Garner. And they're going to get Garner. That's going to be his first personal. Penn State's 3rd foul of the second half. The referees already calling this game a little bit tighter than they did in the first half. Andrew White III pulled up for a jumper from the left elbow, and did not get the shot to go, but drew a foul. He'll head to the line for the second time in the second half.
Yep, White 3 for 3 from the charity stripe today. Pretty solid shooter on the year. 78.5% from behind the charity stripe as he makes that one there.
Nick Fuller and Ty Webster check into the game. Jack McVeigh and Benny Parker will sit down for the Huskers as Jordan Dickerson checks out for Penn State. And Julian Moore checks in for the Nittany Lions. Andrew White knocked down the first attempt. The Huskers 6 of 6 from the line today as he knocks down the second. Give him 7 of 7. Still 100% from the line today for the Huskers. Andrew White, 19 points in the game, 5 of 5 from the line. Now Penn State coming the other way. Slows it down is Peyton Banks. Banks gives it Devin Foster. Foster back to Shep Garner. Garner working on Glenn Watson. Now gives it off to Devin Foster. Foster outside Donovan Jack on the left side. Staying on the left side. It is Shep Garner who pulls up for a jumper. It is no good. Rebound Andrew White III. Flying up the left side is Andrew White. Now he'll slow it down. Now into the corner, though. It's Glenn Watson. Now to the top. Michael Jacobson thought about a 3. Won't take it. Now to Ty Webster on the right. Webster drives inside all the way to the rack, and they're going to get whistles and a foul.
It's going to go Nebraska's way. This is an offensive foul. I believe is away from the ball. They might get Jacobson on the call there. Miles can't believe it all the way out on the court. Right in the face of the officials. It is Michael Jacobson they called there, and I think that's Jacobson's 3rd. That's a big call there, and it'll give Penn State the ball back.
Jacobson trying to clear a lane there for Ty Webster as he drove into the lane, but he could not do it, and a foul was called as we move to the under 16 timeout. Nebraska holding on to a lead over Penn State, 38-33 with 15:57 to go in the ball game. Don't go away. You're listening to 90.3 KRNU. Back at Pinnacle Bank Arena here on 90.3 KRNU. Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac as Nebraska leads Penn State 38-33. Just under 16 minutes to go in the second half as Nebraska's clinging to that lead like I had just mentioned, and an offensive foul was just given to Michael Jacobson, what appeared to be a moving screen, which took away Ty Webster's great drive right there, and Nebraska had an opportunity to score and increase their lead, but it was taken away. And Andrew White in the second half so far, Tommy, has been stepping it up again. He already has 4 points in the second half, kind of resuming what he had going on in the first half.
Yeah, had a little bucket there to start and then a couple of free throws. I mean, I'd say he had his about first 12 points or so in the first 10 minutes of the half, and then most of those points have come from the free throw line. But, yeah, as you said, White taking high-quality shots, taking good shots from the floor. He's pulled down now 4 rebounds. Could be looking at another double-double. I think he has 3 already this year. So, yeah, solid day. Michael Jacobson in double figures, but that third foul, as you said, the moving screen. Big call. Like I said, Miles couldn't believe it. I really didn't see it. The foul was away from the ball. I think there was a couple of defenders blocking my view, and all I saw was Ty Webster with an open lane up the baseline. But they call it. Jacobson's going to sit out for a little bit, so we'll see if they bring in Jake Hammond and Nick Fuller, so we'll see how they do here.
Yeah, like you said, Jake Hammond did check in the timeout for Michael Jacobson right there as Penn State moves with the basketball. Shep Gardner working on Ty Webster, moves it down inside, back outside Shep Gardner. Back down inside again to Donovan Jack. Jack turnaround jumper on Fuller, no good. Rebound to Nebraska after it was tipped around it. It goes into the hands of Ty Webster, who brings up the court for the Huskers.
Nebraska's done a nice job evening the rebounds. Penn State only out-rebounding the Huskers by 2.
Andrew White, 3-ball in the corner from Ty Webster is good. And Nebraska breaks 40 here with a 41-33 lead. Andrew White III has 22 points. That's his third 3-ball of the game. And now Penn State the other way, though. And Shep Gardner moves inside. And off the glass and no good. Rebound Nebraska. Glenn Watson Jr. the other way. Hands it off on the left side. Ty Webster, who slows it down. Now gets a screen from Nick Fuller. Ty Webster working on Shep Gardner. Moves inside on the left baseline. Inside Fuller. Good pass, but Nick Fuller misses the layup. Now the other way, it's Penn State. Devin Foster all the way. But he loses the ball himself. Andrew White comes up with it. And he'll slow it down for the Huskers.
Kind of, I was referencing earlier, each team kind of answers their own mistakes and answers their own baskets. But here lately, Penn State not able to answer as many of Nebraska's baskets. Nebraska's extended their lead to 8, but there, as you saw, Penn State turnover, Nebraska turnover.
Absolutely, that's exactly what we just saw is Glenn Watson, who's working on Peyton Banks. Gets it to the left side. Andrew White III gets a screen from Nick Fuller. 5 on the shot clock. Andrew White chucks up a deep 3. Won't get anything, but Jake Hammond gets the rebound. Does not realize that the shot clock was up. He kind of went back and tried to take it out right there. He had a pretty open lane for a putback, but he decided to pull back with the basketball. Did not realize the shot clock was about to expire, and it did. Turnover, Nebraska.
He was pretty much boxing out. I think it was against Josh Reeves. His back was facing the basket, and that shot from Andrew White was an air ball. Hit him right in the palm. That basically startled him. He was able to grab the ball, but yeah, offensive foul on Nebraska gives the ball back to the Nittany Lions.
And now it's Peyton Banks who works it inside for a wild shot, does not get it to go. Glenn Watson with the rebound, now comes up for Nebraska. Glenn Watson tried to go inside on Reeves, doesn't do it. Watson now still weaving inside. Draws the double team, now gets it to Nick Fuller. Fuller outside, Glenn Watson, who shoots a 3, but there was a whistle before the shot. They're going to get Josh Reeves, I believe. They do get Josh Reeves, right, who fouled Nick Fuller there, as Benny Parker checks back into the game for the Huskers for Glenn Watson, as Josh Reeves checks out along with Julian Moore. Jordan Dickerson checks back in, and the leading scorer for the Penn State, Brandon Taylor, checks back into the game.
Yep, Dickerson a perfect 3 for 3 from the floor. He's gotten a couple of blocks today, too, so Dickerson doing well at that 5 spot.
Ty Webster working it on Brandon Taylor. Can't find anything outside. Andrew White takes a 3-ball and pure. Andrew White III. That is his 4th 3-ball of the contest. Give him 25 points. Andrew White has taken over this game.
Penn State. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, Penn State. Yeah, we got a timeout by Penn State. It's a 30-second, but I was just going to say, Penn State's had a couple of ridiculous three-point makes, so I think Nebraska was due for one. Pretty contested, pretty deep shot, say about a 28-footer from Andrew White, but his 4th triple of the game. Career-high 30 points he had against Abilene Christian back in December. 13.5 minutes to go. He's 5 points away from tying that. We'll see if Andrew White can have a career day here against the Nittany Lions.
Nebraska leads it by 11 as we move to a timeout. 13:34 to go. Nebraska leads Penn State 44-33. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
You're listening to Nebraska Men's Basketball live on 90.3 KRNU and at krnu.unl.edu.
Back here at Pinnacle Bank Arena on 90.3 KRNU. Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac, but for Nebraska men's basketball as the Huskers lead the Penn State Nittany Lions 44-33. Nebraska outscoring Penn State 12-2 in this second half. Penn State has gone cold, and Nebraska's Andrew White III has heated up yet again as he did in the first half. He has 25 points, 10 of those coming so far in this second half, Tommy.
Yep, and Nebraska's on that 8-0 run over the last 3 minutes, and oddly enough, Penn State hasn't made a basket in the last 3:19. So it's kind of really the narrative has flipped basically every 10 minutes, it seems like. It was the first 10 minutes, same story. Nebraska just draining threes, Andrew White on fire. That was the first 10 minutes. And the last 10 minutes of the first half, it was kind of a lot of missed shots both ways. Penn State kind of biting into that lead. But now here we are, Nebraska, their biggest lead of the game at 11, 13.5 to go. See if Penn State can kind of readjust. Penn State switched to that zone defense halfway through the first half. Kind of confused Nebraska a little bit. So we'll see if Penn State can dial that up again and try to slow down Nebraska. Because like I said, Andrew White, 5 more points. He'll tie his career high for 30. And if he gets some more rebounds, he has 4 boards right now. Don't know if he'll get 6 more, but he could maybe be looking at his 4th double-double of the year.
Nebraska has evened out the rebounding margin. Like you said, at the half, that was going to be a big point of this second half. Nebraska is actually taking the lead in the rebounding margin, 23-22, so that is a big part of this second half so far, as Penn State will take it out right next to their bench. It'll be Shep Garner taking it out for the Nittany Lions. And they inbound it to Jordan Dickerson, who gives it right back to Shep Garner. Shep Garner is going to work at the top of the key, working on Benny Parker. Garner to the right side, double teamed with Hammond and Parker. 13 on the shot clock. Now to the top, it's Dickerson. Dickerson hands it off to Peyton Banks. Banks will try a 3, and he does not get it. And the tip in is no good. And rebound comes down with Ty Webster. Now gets it ahead to Andrew White III, who goes up for a shot, but it is taken away and blocked out of bounds. Nebraska will keep the basketball. Very good defensive play there for the Nittany Lions to get back and not let Andrew White score. Very good rebound on the other end, though, for Ty Webster. Coming down with it.
Yeah, that's what's given Nebraska this edge here. The defensive boards. Penn State's kind of been getting those second chance offensive boards, but Nebraska out-rebounding the Nittany Lions 18-15 on the defensive side, and that's translated. And Nebraska's done well of taking advantage of those boards and kind of extending that lead here.
Benny Parker working on Isaiah Washington at the top, gets it to Andrew White. Andrew White now moves inside, step back at the left elbow, and he gets it to fall down. He knocked down Brandon Taylor because of his step-back move, took him to the floor. Andrew
White
was
his shoe, too.
A terrific play there by Andrew White. And now on the other end, a 3-ball by Peyton Banks does not go. But the rebound is saved by Brandon Taylor. But it goes into the hands of the Huskers. And Brandon Taylor on the other end is hurt.
Yeah, Brandon Taylor a little slow to get up again. This isn't good for Penn State. That's their lead scorer already with 3 fouls in the game. Seems to be holding, is it his arm? It looked like he was holding his wrist. Yeah.
It might be his, I think it's his right knee almost.
Yeah, now he's kind of sitting on his butt down on the court, kind of just Coach Patrick Chambers down there looking at him, just kind of sitting there with his arms rested on his knees. Yeah, kind of hard to tell. It looked like he was holding his wrist, then maybe his knee. Yeah, not really sure what happened there.
That play was a little hard to follow, so Peyton Banks had it in the left corner. He took a 3. It hit the front iron of the rim, went straight down, and it was about to go out of bounds, but Brandon Taylor tried to save it. And he did. He threw it back in looking for Jordan Dickerson, but fell short and went into the hands of Nick Fuller. But in the process, Brandon Taylor pretty much hit what was the underside, pretty much the padding on the back of the basket there. But Brandon Taylor gets up and walks off under his own power.
I was just going to say, it was Peyton Banks that took that 3 initially. Right. Kind of a panicky shot by Penn State. I get it, you're down 13. I get it, Andrew White's been on fire, but I mean, with 12.5 to go, down 13, you're not out of it yet. Yeah. And impatient, desperate shots.
Early shot clock 3-pointer right there, and wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why Penn State ranks last in this conference in 3-point shooting. They just kind of just chuck up some Hail Marys at times from beyond the arc, and a couple have gone in today, but still, Penn State only 3 of 15 from beyond the arc today.
Benny Parker finds Nick Fuller for the jam. Nick Fuller, a tremendous find from Benny Parker. Parker was just up there dribbling, working on Isaiah Washington for about 10 seconds, waiting for something to develop. It did, and Nick Fuller with the jam, and that's Nick Fuller's first points of the night.
Parker's first assist as well.
Now Penn State the other way. Gives it. Peyton Banks has his dribble stolen. Nick Fuller has it. Picks his pocket. He hits it to Andrew White, who thought about a very deep three. Would have been a heat check from him. He looked like he gave a little smile down there. He wasn't going to try that one, and now he gives it back to Benny Parker.
Jordan Dickerson came flying in right in front of him, just flailing, just trying to protest the shot any way he can.
Ty Webster with a great pass to Jake Hammond, who goes up and gets fouled. The crowd loves the effort here. Some great passes we've seen by Nebraska. They're going to get Jordan Dickerson, I believe, for the foul there, as we have reached the under-12 media timeout, and Nebraska has increased their lead, and they lead Penn State 48-33 with 11:36 to go in the second half. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU. Back at Pinnacle Bank Arena on 90.3 KRNU, Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac. And Nebraska has increased their lead over Penn State to 48-33 in this second half. Nebraska outscoring Penn State in the second half 16-2, as there are 11 and a half minutes to go in the contest here. And Tommy, Andrew White III has really stepped it up in the second half. He just knocked down a 3 moments ago. Nick Fuller had a tremendous dunk a moment ago. And Jake Hammond just drew a great foul off of a tremendous pass from Ty Webster. There have been more passing and more scoring for Nebraska in this second half.
Yeah, Nick Fuller, a valiant effort there on that last sequence. Benny Parker, a beautiful assist to find Fuller right by the basket for the jam, and then Fuller goes the other way and gets the steal. And then I think there was a foul that stopped play and got us to the under 12. But yeah, great job by Nick Fuller. I said it at the break. His athleticism kind of comes in spurts. Only about 2.5 points a game this year. Had a couple points against Wisconsin, but here last week, as I said, it's just kind of in spurts. He doesn't play a whole lot of minutes, but a week ago against Rutgers, 2 points, 3 rebounds, couple of steals, and 18 minutes of work against Rutgers. So doesn't get the most minutes, but when he's out on the floor, especially here in the last few games, he's making good use of the time he gets.
Jake Hammond to the free throw line after the foul. I believe the foul was on Jordan Dickerson, and he knocks down the first one. Jake Hammond, a surprise make right there, only 45.2% from the line.
Well, yeah, only 1 of 3 coming into today from the free throw line. You missed the second one. But, yeah, Jake Hammond, 3 points today. That's only 6 total on the year for him.
So he splits them from the line. Now Penn State the other way gets it inside to Brandon Taylor, who does not get the roll, but they're going to call a foul after Nebraska are players with their hands on their heads. I believe they're going to get Nick Fuller with the foul, and they do. A 13-0 run Nebraska is on right now over the last 4 minutes and 58 seconds, and they're going to send Brandon Taylor, a 71.4 free throw shooter, to the line.
Yeah, you said it. Nebraska's outscored Penn State in this half 17-2.
17-4 or 17-3 now after that first made free throw.
First points for Penn State in 5.5 minutes.
Taylor's second free throw knocks them both down. So it's 49-35 with 11.5 minutes to go in the ballgame.
Penn State still over their last 6 from the floor offensively, though.
Ty Webster and Nick Fuller combined to break the press here as Nebraska does finally break it. Ty Webster gets it to it was Jake Hammond to break the press, and now Ty Webster finds Benny Parker on the left side. Parker thought about tossing an alley-oop to Ty Webster, but didn't do it. Now it's Benny Parker. Now kicks it out to Andrew White. 6 on the shot clock. White, dribble, and shoot 3. Got it.
Why not? Andrew White, he ties his career high for points. That's 30. That was back in December when Abilene Christian was here. Great shot.
And now a 3-ball the other way by Isaiah Washington. Penn State, only their 4th 3-pointer of the evening.
Washington's first points. He only had 36 points total on the year coming into this game. He was 5 of 34 from beyond the arc. That's 14%. 15%, 14.7. But, yeah, big shot there. Big answer. Still a 14-point deficit. And Penn State kind of picking up that press a little bit more.
And now that Nebraska will break the press as they find Ty Webster in the corner for 3, and it will not go. But they're going to call a foul. Now underneath as Nick Fuller and Jake Hammond went up for the rebound along with Andrew White.
Yep, this is going to come against Julian Moore, who was right there down by the baseline, kind of on the near corner from where we sit by Jake Hammond. Just a little bit of contact. Close to the ball as the ball was kind of rolling out of bounds. I think if If Moore would have backed off a little bit, the ball would have been off Nebraska, and the Nittany Lions would get the ball back. But instead, Nebraska with a fresh 30 and a 14-point lead.
Glenn Watson, who just checked in for Ty Webster, gets the ball in after a dangerous pass and finds Nick Fuller. Peyton Banks just checked out for Josh Reeves as well for Penn State. Now, Benny Parker finds Nick Fuller at the top of the key. Andrew White into the corner, left side. White, outside Hammond. Hammond looking inside for Fuller, doesn't find him. Now to the right side. It's Glenn Watson Jr. with 10 on the shot clock. Watson looks inside, now pulls up for a jumper. No good. Rebound. Hammond goes back up and scores. And one.
Yeah, he got the
foul.
Jake Hammond.
And I think they're going to get Brandon Taylor again. That might be his 4th personal foul, the leading scorer for Penn State. No, they're not going to get Brandon Taylor. Taylor was right there in the scrum, but they're going to get Isaiah Washington on the foul. That's his 2nd personal. So Brandon Taylor stays out of trouble. Would have been a huge loss for Penn State right there. That's their leading scorer in this game and on the season, as Julian Moore checks out for Penn State, and Jordan Dickerson checks back in as Jake Hammond goes to the line for his 3rd free throw attempt of the game and knocks it down.
Yeah, Jake Hammond now, that gives him 6 points. You got to go all the way back to November 28th when Jake had any kind of scoring like this. His first and only double-double of his career against Tennessee, where he had 11 points, 10 rebounds. So, Andrew White, he's tied his career high. We'll see, could be looking at 2 Huskers with new career highs today if they continue.
Davis Zimgulis checks in right there for Josh Reeves during that free throw. And now Penn State with the basketball outside. It's Josh Reeves, who still has it actually. And now it's stolen away. And Andrew White pulls up on the right side for a shot, and it will go in and out. But Nick Fuller's there for the putback. Nick Fuller over 2 different Nittany Lions puts it in. Nick Fuller is having a day, Tommy.
Yeah, those 3, I said Fuller, Hammond, Jacobson played really well against Wisconsin. I'll pause for a second. There was just a foul on the floor. I think this comes against Fuller.
Shep Gardner drove in hard, and Husker fans, and along with Nick Fuller, were looking for a charge there, but they're going to call a block. But it's going to stay on the floor. No shooting foul here.
But yeah, what I was saying before that, I thought, even though it was a loss, I thought Fuller, Hammond, and Jacobson all did well. Didn't have the most points, but got some rebounds, got some blocks against Wisconsin, provided good post presence in that last game on Wednesday.
Brandon Taylor's shot goes up and is no good. He stays cold as the entire Penn State team stays cold. And Glenn Watson Jr. gets the rebound and comes the other way for the Huskers as he slows it down. Working on Shep Gardner. Glenn Watson Jr. gets a screen from Jake Hammond. Doesn't take it. Stays on the right side. Finds Andrew White top of the key. 3-ball White. No good. Rebound. Goes with Penn State. No, he gives it inside. And Brandon Taylor saved it and gave it to Jake Hammond, who goes up for an and one. Brandon Taylor broke the oldest rule in the book. You never save it under your own basket. He saved it, and he threw it straight to Jake Hammond, who went up for an and one. And they're going to get, I believe, Isaiah Washington for his 3rd personal foul. Washington, nothing he could do. Jake Hammond had the ball right to him, went up for an and one and scores. Jake Hammond moves with 8 points now, 3 of 3 from the field, and this is going to be his 4th free throw attempt after his 2nd and one.
Yeah, that save by Taylor straight into the hands of Hammond. Hammond had Washington in his face. Great pump fake. He drew the contact, got the shot. He's going to take a seat on the bench, catch his breath, and the crowd absolutely loves it. Jake Hammond, you know it just as well as anybody who's watched these games, Zach. In the limited minutes this year, in the minutes he played, he struggled. And he's been coming off the bench today, doing great things, a lot of points. 1 point away from tying his career high. Hammond has 9 points.
It's been a tough road this year for Jake Hammond. He started off the year as a starter, got taken out, pretty much moved down 2 or 3 tiers as far as a lineup and overall right there. But Jake Hammond having a tremendous game, 3 of 4 from the line, has. Where is he? He has 9 points in this game. Has grabbed
2 points from tying the career.
Has grabbed 5 rebounds. So a great game, great performance from Jake Hammond. Michael Jacobson has moved into double figures as well. Andrew White ties his career record with 30 points. So it's nothing but career highs and new breaking days and tying personal records for Nebraska right now, Tommy.
Oh, yeah, another one I thought of, Michael Jacobson. He had a career high 13 against Rutgers a week ago here. He has 10 points. He's made 3 balls this year. We'll see if he decides to chuck up another one. But yeah, Jacobson, White, Hammond, all just playing their tails off, getting the crowd on their feet, taking over this game. I said it. Nebraska just sticks to what they've been doing recently offensively. Getting guys like Jacobson more involved, get Andrew White back to form. they would control this game offensively, and they have done so, leading by 22.
60-38, Nebraska leads the game. They're on an 8-0 run over the last minute and 15 seconds as Penn State now has the ball, gives it back outside. It's Shep Garner, has his pass tipped, and Glenn Watson comes down with it. Michael Jacobson now moves inside, gives it off. Andrew White, who goes under the basket but won't take the shot. And White kicks it back out to Benny Parker, who will slow it down. Kind of a smart play right there by Andrew White. Takes the air out of the ball a little bit. Nebraska with a 22-point lead, 8.5 minutes to go in the contest.
3 turnovers by Penn State in the last 2 minutes. They have 15 in the game.
Benny Parker now gives it to Jack McVeigh. McVeigh, left side, White, who tries another three. Yes, sir! Andrew White has eclipsed his career high that he had earlier this season. 33 points. That is his 6th three of the evening. 6 of 10 from out there. Give him 60%. And a tremendous three-point shooting performance from Andrew White III.
Unconscious effort.
Now for Penn State the other way. Zingulis tries the three. No go. Rebound for Nebraska. Benny Parker now moves up the floor. Now he'll slow it down as well. Nebraska staying smart here, taking the air out of the ball a little bit.
Yeah, exact opposite of what Parker did to start this game. Parker was just going 100 miles an hour, it seemed like, in that first half. Took a few tumbles, drew a couple of fouls. But, yeah, 2 times he got a fast break and slowed it down.
Michael Jacobson tries the three. He doesn't get it. Jack McVeigh comes down with the rebound now. Nebraska with a fresh 30-second shot clock right there. They slow it down again.
You just get the feeling that everybody's just kind of feeding off each other's energy out there. The crowd's back into it. Everybody from top to bottom making plays. Jake Hammond, Andrew White, Michael Jacobson, everybody making plays. And now Parker and McVeigh, a couple of big boards here in the last couple of seconds.
McVeigh will try a three. Got it! Jack McVeigh. His first three of the contest. Nebraska, everyone is on fire. 66-38, a little over 7 minutes to go in the game. Tim Miles out on the floor encouraging his defense. Glenn Watson now is working against Shep Garner. Tip the ball in the air. Now it's another steal. Andrew White III gives it to Michael Jacobson all the way to the rack, and now they're going to call a charge. Jacobson had Glenn Watson Jr. right there. It was a 2-on-1 situation, but Jacobson thought he'd take it all the way after the steal from Andrew White III, and they're going to get Michael Jacobson for the foul. That's going to be his 4th personal. He might have to take a seat for a while as we reach the under-8 media timeout at Pinnacle Bank Arena, where Nebraska leads Penn State 66-38. 6:54 to go in the game. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU. Back here at Pinnacle Bank Arena on 90.3 KRNU. Zach Pendergast alongside Tommy Rezac as Nebraska leads Penn State 66-38 with 6:54 to go in the second half. Nebraska outscoring Penn State in the second half 34-7 right now as Nebraska has completely turned this game around. And Tommy, like you said, they are feeding off each other's energy right now. Andrew White III, 33 points. Glenn Watson, 7. Michael Jacobson, 10. And Jake Hammond out of nowhere has 9 points right now in this game. What do you attribute all of the Nebraska success to?
Well, yeah, like I said, everyone's just feeding off their energy. It's just like it's almost contagious. It's almost it's Andrew White, your team leader, just having a career day, career high 33 points, 6 threes. I think that might be a career high. I'd have to go back and look. But, yeah, 6 of 10 from 3 from Andrew White. And, you know, it stinks not having your second leader out there, your team captain, your senior, Siobhan Shields. I think maybe that might be part of this energy, too. McVeigh and everybody else just – I said it. McVeigh and these other weapons Nebraska has have to step up in place of your second-best scorer. That's what's happening right now. Nebraska with a commanding lead.
Shep Gardner now has the basketball for Penn State, whips it inside, now kicks it out. It's Isaiah Washington who finds Peyton Banks, who knocks down a three-pointer. Peyton Banks on the board for Penn State right there. That's his second three of the game. Give him 6 points on the night.
25th three of the year.
Now Nebraska breaks the press right there. Jack McVeigh finds Benny Parker, who breaks the press for Nebraska. Benny Parker moves to the left side. Back to the outside of Jack McVeigh. Right side, Glenn Watson. 8 on the shot clock. Nebraska's got to do something. Hammond at the top of the key. Outside, left side, White. And Andrew White. They're going to get a charge.
Yeah, tough call there. White kind of threw the shoulder a little bit. I don't know if Peyton...
They're going to keep this one. They are going to call it on Penn State. It looked like the ref may have called that a charge, but it's not. Nebraska's in the bonus right now. 9th team foul on Penn State. Andrew White will go to the line for a 1-on-1 opportunity here, leading the game 66-41. The front end is good.
Yeah, basically what I was going to say there is tough call either way because, White kind of threw the shoulder, but don't think Peyton Banks' feet were quite set, and I think that's what the ref saw and made that call. Good eyes by the referee.
Only 3 seconds on the shot clock there, so a tough call on Penn State. They almost had another stop, but as Andrew White knocks down the second free throw, he is 6 of 6, I believe, from the line, or 7 of 7 now from the line, 35 points on the day, leading scorer in the game, and a career day for Andrew White III. Now Shep Garner for Penn State moves it down inside to Brandon Taylor, and Jack McVeigh maybe doing a little too much work on him right there, and they're going to get a foul on McVeigh. That is going to be his first personal. Nebraska's 7th foul moves Penn State into the bonus. Brandon Taylor goes to the free throw line for a 1-on-1 opportunity for Penn State.
Yeah, down 27. Penn State needed something to fall their favor, but not a great free throw shooting team as they missed that front end.
They missed the front end, and the rebound gets tipped all the way to half court, where Donovan Jack ends up with it for Penn State, and Penn State will get a fresh 30-second shot clock. And now it's Shep Garner who works up for a 3, left all alone, but he misses it, and Benny Parker comes down with the rebound. A complete miscommunication there defensively for the Huskers, but they get a break, and they lead at 68-41 and have the basketball. Benny Parker up the left side gets a screen from Hammond, now finds McVeigh. McVeigh to Glenn Watson, top of the key, Hammond. Hammond to Andrew White, back up top of the key, McVeigh. McVeigh to the right side, Glenn Watson. Watson with 8 on the shot clock. Now to the top, McVeigh. McVeigh working inside. Step back from the left elbow is no good. Rebound will go to Penn State. Shep Garner saves it from going out on the right side. Now moves up. Garner goes all the way to the rack. Shot up, and it is good. Over the top of Benny Parker. Shep Garner gets the shot to fall.
Yeah, kind of a 2-on-2 there. Donovan Jack and Garner going down for Penn State, and McVeigh and Hammond down there to do defense. But Garner just kind of took a jumper, probably about, let's say about 3-4 feet out, just inside the circle, maybe from the right elbow, and nice shot off the glass.
Nebraska's offense is really slowing down here as Jack McVeigh gets this pass from Andrew White III, who is right about the free throw line, but he is called for the travel, and Penn State will get the ball back. Nebraska's offense, Tommy, completely slowing down here in the last few minutes. Yeah,
you're up, 25 points in this game. You've led by as much as 28. Basically in hand. This is a game Nebraska needed more on that later. But, yeah, Nebraska kind of taking the foot off the gas a little bit with the game comfortably in hand at this point.
They get to move it inside to Donovan Jack, who goes up for the shot, and it is no good. Blocked out of bounds by Jake Hammond. It will stay with Penn State. During that last little break there, Nick Fuller checked in for Jack McVeigh. We've seen a lot of minutes out of Fuller today, who doesn't usually get this many minutes, but he's getting quite a bit today. Great experience for Nick Fuller right now as Brandon Taylor.
And second block of the day by Jake Hammond.
Shep Garner into the corner. 3-ball by Devin Foster is no good. Rebound by Penn State. And Jake Hammond and Donovan Jack get tied up right there. And they're going to get a jump ball. And the possession arrow is in favor of the Nittany Lions. It will stay with Penn State.
Fresh 30 seconds. Chance to just try and break this, what's been an offensive meltdown here in the second half. Only about 10 points total.
12 now for Penn State.
Okay, yeah, just anything you can do at this point just to kind of work on your offense, get some plays, any way you can get points.
Donovan Jack from the left elbow does knock down a shot.
His first points of the day.
Exactly, his first points of the day. Previously 0 of 3 from the field. And Penn State working a little bit of offense now. They're getting a little bit better as Nick Fuller and Benny Parker break the press. It's Glenn Watson, Jr., standing near midcourt, working on Peyton Banks of Penn State. Glenn Watson to the right side now, still working on Banks, keeping it himself. 10 on the shot clock. Andrew White, wide open 3 is good, but they're going to call an offensive foul. Andrew White III would have put him to 38 points on the day, but they get number 24.
That's Jake Hammond.
Hammond on the foul. That's going to be Hammond's second personal foul on the day. His first personal foul on the day as we move to the under 4 media timeout. Our last media timeout of the evening as Nebraska leads Penn State 68-45 with 3:42 to go in the game. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
Tune in to every Husker men's and women's basketball game online at krnu.unl.edu and 90.3 KRNU.
Back here at Pinnacle Bank Arena on 90.3 KRNU. Zach Penrice alongside Tommy Rezac here, and as Nebraska leads Penn State 68-45, the game appears to be well in hand here at Pinnacle Bank Arena, as Penn State has only had 14 second-half points, as opposed to Nebraska's 36 second-half points. And Nebraska only led by 1 point at the break, but now they lead by 23, Tommy, and attribute that to Andrew White's 35 points and another explosion from some more random players from the Nebraska offense.
Yeah, Jake Hammond, like I said, second best scoring effort of the year. He hasn't scored this many points since late November in that Barclays win over Tennessee. He has 9 points today. I said it, Michael Jacobson might be nearing a career high, but I think his day is done. With 3.5 minutes left, a 20-plus point lead and 4 fouls, Jacobson likely won't get there. But, yeah, as you said, great effort all around by Nebraska's offense.
A 3-ball by Shep Garner is no good, but Garner gets his own rebound and scores to bring this game within 21 points. A great play there by Shep Garner. Only has 6 points on the day on 3 of 13 shooting, so it's been a tough day for him, but great effort right there by Garner to get the shot to fall. Benny Parker now the other way for Nebraska finds Jake Hammond. Hammond to Glenn Watson on the right side. Hammond back to Fuller. Fuller to the left side. Benny Parker. Parker down to the top, almost has his pass stolen and does have it stolen. It's Isaiah Washington all the way to the rack. No good. Offensive rebound by
Peyton Banks.
Banks
took
flew
a spill.
in.
Yeah.
He flew in and couldn't hang on to the basketball, and it goes out of bounds back to Nebraska. So an errant pass there by Benny Parker to Isaiah Washington, who can't complete the play on the other end. And Benny Parker now will be subbed out. Bakari Evelyn checked into the game for the second time for the Huskers.
Yeah, Peyton Banks going after that rebound. He looked like he was headed for the floor pretty quick. He kind of saved himself, had to put his hands out and lighten the blow. But as he did so, kind of lost control of the ball, went out of bounds, and Nebraska gets it back up 21. And Glenn Watson, Andrew White still in the game. Not quite sure they're done scoring yet.
Glenn Watson now moves to the right elbow for a shot, and it is good. Glenn Watson knocks it down, and you see Jordan Dickerson down on the block kind of complaining to the referee, looking for a foul. Maybe offensive foul on Jake Hammond, but he was not called for it. And the other end, and Hammond goes in for a block, but now a massive dunk by Jordan Dickerson the other way as he stares down at his bench and into the student section of Nebraska. A statement dunk right there by Jordan Dickerson, powerful over Jake Hammond.
Yeah, he had a couple of those in the first half. He's a perfect 4 of 4 from shooting from the floor, 6 rebounds, almost a quiet double-double today. Dickerson has been doing some good work down there by the basket when he's open, but Nebraska's done a pretty decent job of containing that 7-1 center.
A substitution timeout going on right now for Nebraska, a 30-second timeout. It appeared that they were about to make a platoon swap right there, and you would imagine that most of the starters would be done, including Andrew White III, who, if he is done, will finish this game with 35 points on 11 of 17 shooting, 6 of 10 from 3, 7 of 7 from the line, and 4 rebounds. A tremendous scoring effort, overall effort from Andrew White III, who has eclipsed his career scoring record on the season, which he did much earlier this season, but he breaks it today with 35 points. Nebraska will have what appears to be an entirely new lineup that's about to check in. Penn State's will pretty much stay the same as the Huskers lead it 70-49 with 2:04 to go, as the fans begin to file out of Pinnacle Bank Arena happy with a Nebraska win, which should be a Nebraska win, which would improve them to 14-2 on the year. Yes, a platoon swap. Johnny Trueblood has checked in for the Huskers, along with Tanner Borkart has checked in. Bakari Evelyn stays in for the Huskers, along with Malcolm Laws. He just checked into the game. And Jack McVeigh will head out there for the Huskers.
Just check the numbers. That is a career-high number of threes for Andrew White. The most he had made this year was 5 against Northwestern.
Evelyn will try a 3. It is no good. Rebound goes to Penn State, and it goes down with Isaiah Washington, who finds Shep Garner. Garner will try a 3-ball. He will not get it. Rebound goes down. Tanner Borkart, and he stays with it and gets the rebound for the Huskers. Tanner Borkart.
Yeah, the walk-on from Gothenburg hit a 3 at the tail end of that Rutgers game a week ago, brought the crowd on their feet. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to chuck up some shots, get a few more ticks on their stats this year.
Bakari Evelyn now working to the top, now finds Johnny Trueblood. Trueblood works inside, looking for a back behind the head pass, looking for Tanner Borkart. Trueblood trying a nifty little move there, but he just kind of lobs it out of bounds. And it's going to go back to Penn State. Johnny Trueblood, the local kid from Elkhorn, Nebraska, played for Elkhorn South last year, true freshman.
Kind of from your neck of the woods, Mr. Creighton Pratt.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You know about him, he wasn't in the same classes as us, but he was very good, led his team to a state title. as now they're going to get a foul on Nebraska on the other end. They're going to get Borkart, and he fouled Jordan Dickerson, the 7'1" center. Dickerson, if he can knock down both of these free throws, it'll be a 1-on-1 opportunity. If he knocks down both, he'll move into double figures.
Borkart, kind of interesting story, like I said, from the small town of Gothenburg. A walk-on who basically just joined in October on an open tryout. 6 points in 26 minutes of action this year, and he's a perfect 3 for 3 from the floor this year.
Dickerson's free throw on the front end is missed, but the offensive rebound for Penn State comes down. Brandon Taylor has it. Now gives it to Devin Foster. Foster on the right side, moves it back left. Brown to Taylor. Taylor will try a three, and got it. A deep three from Brandon Taylor. He's been quiet a lot of the night, but he still leads Penn State in scoring. 14 points for him as Bakari Evelyn crosses the timeline. Under 50 seconds to go in the ballgame. Evelyn back to McVeigh. McVeigh to Trueblood. Trueblood will go up all the way to the rack. Gets his shot blocked by Brandon Taylor. Rebound goes to Taylor. And Penn State will work it up. Shot clock still on here. 33 seconds to go. Now back Brandon Taylor in the corner. Working on Johnny Trueblood. Now kicks it out. Isaiah Washington. Step back. 3-ball. And he draws a foul on Bakari Evelyn.
Yep. Three free throws.
And it will be 3 free throws. Shot clock turns off. They get Bakari Evelyn there.
Go ahead.
This entire platoon swap since Nebraska has checked in has not scored. This entire new 5 are all very young.
Basically Penn State's kept most of their starting 5 out there. Brandon Taylor's still out there running all over the floor against a bunch of walk-ons essentially here. But no scoring. But you're up 27 still. Right. The kids are getting minutes in a Big Ten game here at home, and that's pretty good. Bakari Evelyn, a little bit. Like I said, that was Evelyn going up against Washington, a guy who's been playing a lot more minutes this year. So, no harm, no foul, really. You live and learn, and that's what this experience is for. You're going to make mistakes, and they'll learn from it.
Isaiah Washington knocks down 2 of 3 from the free throw line, so it's 70-54. Nebraska still leads it. Shot clock turned off. 21 seconds to go. Evelyn finds Trueblood. Back to Evelyn. Now to the right, McVeigh. McVeigh back to the top of the key. Evelyn with 13 on the clock. Shot clock will remain off, and I think Nebraska will just take the air out of the ball here and not take a shot. Evelyn, though, to the top of the key, backs it off, working against. And now Evelyn is going to take the air out as the horn sounds at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Nebraska defeats Penn State 70-54, and the Huskers improve to 14-12 on the year, 6-7 in the conference. Penn State falls to 12-13 on the year and 3-9 in the conference. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back for the post-game show here on 90.3 KRNU. Again, Nebraska defeats Penn State 70-54. Don't go away. You're listening to Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU.
University of Nebraska Cornhusker Sports is right here on 90.3 KRNU and streaming worldwide at krnu.unl.edu. You're listening to Nebraska Cornhusker Basketball on 90.3 KRNU and online at krnu.unl.edu.
Nebraska came into today with a 2-4 home record in the Big Ten. They were in need of a win after losing 4 of their last 5, and they get it done against the Penn State Nittany Lions after losing 2 straight to the Nittany Lions, 2 of the last 3 to Penn State. The last time Penn State was in Lincoln was 2 years ago. It was part of that winning streak Nebraska had to get to the tournament 2 years ago. Penn State comes back to Lincoln, similar result. Nebraska wins by double figures. Huskers get it done today 70-54 to the tune of a new career high by Andrew White III. And with that, we welcome you to the Husker Countdown men's basketball postgame show here on 90.3 KRNU with the 2 gentlemen, myself and Zach Penrice. I'm Tommy Rezac. We called the action today. Valiant job by Zach Penrice once again. And Zach, on the play-by-play today, obviously Andrew White's shooting, exhibition clinic, story of the game. But with that and everything that transpired, kind of immediate thoughts, immediate reaction to this win.
Well, Nebraska played their hearts out today. It was tremendous. The energy was everywhere, and you don't really see a lot out of this team, especially that they're just feeding off of each other. It was everywhere. I think that you might have had a point where you said the whole no Siobhan Shields effect may have had that that may have rubbed off on this team. And like you said, Andrew White going for a career high definitely helped everyone else go and try and achieve the best that they could. Glenn Watson Jr. had 9 points. He had a very nice performance. Michael Jacobson with 10, staying right there in the way he's been playing. He keeps that up. So it's a lot of the freshmen have been stepping up. Even Jack McVeigh knocked down a 3. He was 50% from 3, but he kind of struggled inside. But seeing McVeigh knock down a 3 is always good to see. He was struggling with that early in the season. Nebraska clearing the bench today. All 12 players who were eligible today played. Very good to see. Jake Hammond, 9 points. We don't really see that out of him very often at all. Now, he had 2 and 1s as well, and a 45% free throw shooter, knocks down 3 of 4 from the line. And that brings me to my best point. I've stressed it in the early games of the season. You remember how big of an advocate I was about free throw shooting, Tommy. Nebraska, 92% from the line today, 12 of 13. A tremendous free throw performance, and the only free throw shooters today were Andrew White III, Michael Jacobson, and Jake Hammond, and the only miss did come from Jake Hammond. So those 3 shot all of the Nebraska free throws, and were all very good. And we talked about the final score for a second, 70-54. Nebraska won by 16. Does not even reflect the dominance that Nebraska had on this game, especially in the second half. Penn State kept pretty much all their starters in the last 2 minutes when Nebraska cleared all their starters off the floor and pretty much did a platoon swap. But Penn State kept everyone out there and ended the game on a 13-2 run over the last 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So just to put that in perspective as to where this game was before Nebraska really started taking the air out of the ball and coasting towards the finish line in this game. Nebraska, though, still holds on for a pretty significant win, 70-54, and they improve immensely, they improved to 14-12 overall and 6-7 in the conference.
Yeah, and with that win, they top the win total from last year. I think that was step one, honestly, in rebuilding from last year's slump. That losing streak was getting more wins than last year. Nebraska's now done that. 6 conference wins, 6-7 on the year. Tough test though coming up Wednesday with the Indiana Hoosiers, who just beat probably the best team, or one of the best teams. There's a 3-way tie atop the Big Ten standings. Indiana did beat Iowa on Thursday night, and that's where Nebraska heads next. And, Jack McVeigh knocking down that 3. That was his 25th 3 of the year, coming off that 8-point performance against Wisconsin, that on this past Wednesday. So, Zach, I know it's kind of almost kind of speculative to ask, but it's kind of fun to imagine what this offense would have been like with Siobhan Shields today.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, of course, if Siobhan Shields were here, I mean, you take away 2 or 3 of everybody else's shots and you give them to Siobhan. You trust Siobhan more than everyone on this team, maybe besides Andrew White. So I think that if Siobhan plays today, it's a completely different game. But let's keep in mind it's Penn State, and that Nebraska was fine without him today. But if they can find a way to have Siobhan Shields when they go into Assembly Hall on Wednesday, you never know. I mean, you just never know. I mean, we know that Indiana, that might be the hardest place to play in the entire conference. Assembly Hall.
I think actually the Big Ten Network did a poll the other day on their Facebook page. Right. They said, what is the most intimidating venue? Assembly Hall was number 1.
I wouldn't doubt that. I mean, the upsets that they've had there in the last 5 years. I mean, you even see things on Twitter. I've seen some things this week where if you like your ranking, don't go to Assembly Hall. I mean, they're something like 6-1 over the last 2 years against top 5 teams. They just don't lose big games in that building, let alone games against teams that they should beat and have already beaten this season. So going in there on Wednesday is going to be very intimidating. But if Nebraska, with this performance today, it's more than just beating Penn State, because Nebraska was supposed to win this game. Let's be real. They were supposed to win this game. And they're supposed to win it pretty handily. I mean, it was kind of expected. And Nebraska, they really didn't play that bad on Wednesday night in Madison. Okay, they really didn't.
It wasn't bad, no.
You fix 1 or 2 things. Nebraska's 3-point defense wasn't very good. But
Wisconsin hitting 4 consecutive threes to start the half.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska came out in the second half, knocked down their first shot, and then Wisconsin came back and hit 4 threes. And then the game was over. And so Wisconsin, half their field goals were from beyond the arc. They knocked down 11 of them, including, like you said, 4 threes in the first 2 minutes of the second half. So if some of those threes don't go in, or Nebraska can change a few things, maybe hit a few of their shots, a completely different game. Completely different game up in Madison. And so it's really not that hard to believe that Nebraska can give Indiana a game, and I think they will give Indiana a game. They pretty much don't lay down and die this year. It's a completely new team, and so you saw last year a lot of the time they'd score 40 or 50 points and just play awful. You don't really see that a lot this year. I mean, even the game at Purdue was on fire in every possible aspect of the game. Nebraska really didn't play that bad. They just played
it was single digits
right,
most of the time.
Most of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdue just on fire, and it was a similar story to Wisconsin. So I see the Indiana game being a very similar story to Purdue and Wisconsin. And so Nebraska could hang in there. I like Indiana in that game overall to beat Nebraska. So, but it can be a very similar game, and I think it will be a similar game. Nebraska can hang in there for 35 minutes or so, but in the end, it very well, in my opinion, it will be Indiana pulling out the win.
Now, if you do remember, Indiana did kind of struggle coming out of the gate there in November. The only 2 losses they have at Assembly Hall this year were on November 23rd and 25th. They fell to Wake Forest and then also to UNLV. Both of those games, single-digit losses, but they lost those 2. Indiana ended up losing 2 of their first 7 games, and 2 of those losses coming at home. But Indiana has won every home game in Assembly Hall since December 5th, and so they've run the table thus far at home in Big Ten play, including that win over 4th-ranked Iowa. They beat Minnesota there. Northwestern and Illinois, Ohio State, Wisconsin have all tried and failed to win in Assembly Hall. They also beat Notre Dame there as well. So, like you said, very tough place to win. So you look at Nebraska's remaining schedule. We've already been doing this. We said today this was one of 6 games remaining. We said today, I kind of reiterated what I heard from Mike Schaefer this morning. 3 wins, probably 4 wins, almost punches your ticket to the NIT. 1 down. Does Nebraska get 2 to 3 more?
And I think they very well could. I mean, you'd hope that
they do play Penn State again.
Yeah, right. They do have Penn State again, and like you said, it was a hard place to play. They've lost it the last 2 years, but I think this year is different. This Nebraska team, I think, is better. That they're like last year when they played Penn State. Their season was over, very, very, very over.
Oh wow,
So the fact that they went up there and lost, it didn't really shock anybody. I mean, it is Penn State, but it was a horrible loss for Nebraska, and it really solidified how disappointing of a year it really was. So going up there and getting a win would be very, very big, especially with next Saturday Ohio State comes in here. In my opinion, Nebraska will be coming off of a loss at Indiana. They're going to have to win that Ohio State game to stay on track for that 3-3 finish that we talked about. And in Ohio State, they're not the Ohio State of old. They're having a down year as well. So that could be that's a very winnable game. And then you talk about another home game that they have, their last home game, Purdue. That's a ranked team.
Yep.
It's going to be a very, very challenging game. But it's senior day. It's Siobhan Shields' last game, and I imagine he will be back by then. I would hope that he'd be back by then. And you talk about an emotional day for Benny Parker and Siobhan Shields, those 2 last games in this building. So guys that have been around in this program ever since before this building was even built. So these are 2 guys that were going to come out and they're going to play their best basketball. And you think that Andrew White and some of these other players are going to try and finish off their career at Nebraska, playing at home in front of these fans with a banger. So, and then they go to Northwestern. That's their last game, and it is Northwestern Senior Day. But we're talking about a team that's reeling a little bit. So, in my opinion, every one of these games is winnable. I really think they are. I think that if Nebraska were to run the table, they would still be in striking distance of the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a very realistic thing. Obviously, we've talked about that. It's going to be challenging, but if they can split the rest of the way, maybe go 2-4, or what is it? No, 2-3 down the stretch, 3-2 down the stretch. That gives them probably a solid NIT win. And then you talk about a win in Indianapolis. That might be a home game or 2 in the NIT, which would be very nice for this team, especially because of the teams they'd be playing in the NIT, which would be beatable teams that are on their level, which would be very good for this team. In my opinion, they just need a postseason. This is a very young team. They have a lot of freshmen on this team, playing more games in March, playing extra games, playing an extra game or 2 in Indianapolis as well. That'd be huge for this team, especially with the inexperience they have with all these freshmen on this team.
Yeah, I was just going to say, going back to the narrative of Husker football after going 5-7, is it the season you envisioned? Is it exactly what you wanted? No, but if you get invited, you're darn right you're going to play those games. I mean, those younger players, reps, that's what it takes. Reps upon reps. More games can only do more good and can only mean improvement and progress in the right direction. So, that's absolutely true. And, Zach said it. And let's not forget Nebraska 2 years ago, late in the season, gutsy win over in Assembly Hall, that 70-60 win, one of the big staples in that tournament run. Granted, Indiana wasn't quite as good, but it doesn't matter what year it is. Even in those down years of Indiana, Assembly Hall was a tough place to play all the time. So, again, Nebraska does get it done 70-54. Siobhan Shields was in attendance today, looking at a picture on ESPN.com. He was in street clothes but did not play. Kind of still day-to-day I would say at this point, I would almost lean more towards probable for Wednesday, but obviously we can't speculate anything. He's still going through that concussion protocol through UNL. Obviously, that's not anything you can rush. I mean, if you're showing symptoms, you're not going to play. So I think Shields will have the rest of the weekend to rest. We'll see if he practices early next week. But, yeah, Nebraska does go on the road to Columbus to face Ohio State. And with that, we check the Big Ten standings right now. Still that three-way tie on top, those three teams, Maryland, Indiana, Iowa. Indiana, Iowa just played Thursday. They have the day off today. And over in Maryland, University Park, the Terrapins currently trailing Wisconsin 45-39 with 10.5 to go in the second half over on ESPN. So that game could have huge impacts. And then Wisconsin gets 8-4. They're in the top 5 of the Big Ten, and they're right on Michigan's heels for 4th place in the Big Ten. So Wisconsin, Bo Ryan walks out halfway through. They lose all of their talent to the NBA, and somehow Wisconsin, with 6 straight wins, trying to get a 7th straight at the second-ranked team in the country, winning by 6 with 10.5 to go in the second half. Big Ten basketball fans, that's a game to watch this evening. But, yeah, Nebraska's next opponent, though, the Ohio State Buckeyes, 16-10, 8-5 in the Big Ten. Zach said, no, this isn't the Ohio State of the past, but Ohio State is a consistently solid program year after year, and 8-5 record in the Big Ten. If you're on the plus side of 500 by 3 games, it means you're doing some things right. So it's not going to be an easy one. I'm going to look at Ohio State's schedule real quick, see how they fared in Columbus. Looking at teams they've beaten, they did beat Northwestern there back on February 9th. Beat Penn State in Columbus, also beat Rutgers twice, Illinois and Minnesota, and they beat Kentucky there back on December 19th in Columbus, beat Air Force. Virginia went in there and won. Memphis went in there and got the win. They lost to Louisiana Tech in their own building in Columbus, so it has been done, and Maryland went in there at the end of January, got a win. So like Nebraska, Ohio State hasn't been untouchable at home. So I'm with Zach in saying Nebraska would have a chance at every single game. But, yeah, hang on. Nebraska plays Indiana Wednesday, right?
They do.
And then Ohio State comes here next Saturday.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so, yeah, those are the next 2 opponents. But you get my idea. Ohio State, and then you look at who Ohio State's played on the road. Lost at Wisconsin, lost at Purdue, lost at Maryland, lost at Indiana. So, but they've also they've won at Northwestern, at Illinois. So really kind of an up and down year for Ohio State, looking 2 games ahead. And then Indiana,
right?
I mean, you know about Indiana. They just beat Iowa. They're on a roll, 20-5, only 2 losses at home. So a couple interesting games down the stretch. Just one last time before we go over final numbers. At Indiana, Ohio State, at Penn State, Purdue at home, and then at Northwestern, the final 5 games of the regular season for Nebraska. So it'll be very interesting as Nebraska gets a win that they needed to kind of put some wind back in their sails down the stretch late in this part of the schedule. And they beat Penn State today 70-54, moved to 7-5 all time against the Nittany Lions. Going through the scoring of this game, well, it was the Andrew White show, 35 points and a career-high 6 3-balls. His previous career high was 5 against Northwestern. 35 points by Andrew White. Glenn Watson, kind of right on pace where he has been. He's averaged 12 points a game the last 12 games. 9 points, pretty solid outing for him. Jack McVay, 3 points. Michael Jacobson, double figures again with 10. And then a few zeros on the board. Ty Webster, Benny Parker, Trueblood, Bakari Evelyn, and Tanner Borkhardt all with zeros. But Nick Fuller tacks in 4, and Jake Hammond, second highest scoring effort of the season and of his career, 9 points there. On the Penn State side, pretty balanced scoring effort. Zach said that a couple times. Peyton Banks was 6. Brandon Taylor, their lead scorer, 14 points. Got into a little bit of foul trouble early in the second half. Had 2 whistles on him in the first 15 seconds of the second half. Really kind of changed the momentum, I feel like, right away out of the gate, getting Brandon Taylor on those 2 fouls. Jordan Dickerson, solid outing by the center, 8 points, 6 rebounds for him. Shep Gardner, the second best scorer on the team for Penn State, quiet, 6 points, 3 of 14 from the floor, 0 for 7 from beyond the arc, and 6 rebounds and 3 assists to go with that. Julian Moore with 2 points. Davis Zemgulius from Lithuania, 2 points. Devin Foster, 3. Donovan Jack, 2. Isaiah Washington, the redshirt freshman, with 5. And then Josh Reeves tacking on 6. Nebraska shot pretty well from the floor, 46%, 25 of 54. Penn State was hanging with Nebraska, but missed a lot of shots down the stretch. They finished 38% from the floor, 21 for 55. From three, Nebraska owned this stat, 8 of 18, 44%. Penn State, 6 of 23, 26%. Penn State rakes last in the Big Ten in both field goal and three-point percentage. Free throws, Nebraska, excellent job, 12 of 13, 92%. Penn State, about 68% on the year, and that's about where they finished. 6 of 9, 67% from the charity stripe. Turnovers, a lot of them, 17 by Penn State, 14 by Nebraska. Nebraska scored 23 points off of Penn State turnovers. Rebounding, well, Penn State, that's, like Zach said, that's basically Brandon Taylor going up against Nebraska's walk-ons, getting those few extra stats late. Penn State does end up winning the rebounding battle, 34-32. Points in the paint, Nebraska once again outscores their opponent in the paint, 28-22 there. Solid post presence again by Jacobson, Hammond, and Fuller. 4 block shots by Penn State, 3 by Nebraska, 11 Husker steals. Great job there. 6 steals by Penn State, 10 assists for Nebraska, 9 by Penn State. This game swapped leads 3 times, was tied 5 times, but Nebraska I don't think Nebraska ever trailed in the second half, and they led for 30 minutes of this game and ultimately get it done 70-57. They led by as much as 28 and were led by the junior and the lead scorer, the 5th best scorer in the Big Ten, in Andrew White. That's going to do it for our broadcast here today. My thanks to Zach Penrice for joining me on this one. This was a fun game to call. Nebraska gets it done at home to move to 14-12 on the year and 6-7 in the Big Ten. Our next broadcast of Husker basketball is tomorrow, Valentine's Day. The women's team have a big game. They welcome 17th-ranked Michigan State to the Pinnacle Bank Arena. Nebraska coming off a beating in Minneapolis Thursday night, losing 110-73. So Nebraska will try to get back on the winning track and pull an upset over the 17th-ranked Spartans. That is a 3 o'clock tip, 2:50 pregame here on KRNU. Our own Kellen Havigan on KRNU sports staff, and our good friend Michael Dixon will be on the call for that one. A solid duo on that call. You won't want to miss it. 2:50 pregame, 3 o'clock tip, Nebraska women's basketball with Michigan State. And then our next men's broadcast 1 week from today, as we mentioned earlier, Ohio State comes in here at 6 p.m. for a 6 o'clock tip and 5:30 pregame with yours truly, Tommy Rezac and Zach Penrice, Saturday, February 20th. 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock tip for the Huskers and the Buckeyes. And the last time Ohio State was here 2 years ago, well, that was kind of the start of the magic run. Nebraska beat a 17th-ranked Ohio State team last time they were in Lincoln. So it could be a fun game when we come back here 1 week from today for Husker men's basketball. And you can catch the tail end, the last few home games. There aren't many left, only two more home games for Nebraska men's basketball this year, so you can catch both of them right here on 90.3 KRNU. Big thanks to our studio producer today, Paul Dube, who's new this semester, doing great work. Thank you, Paul. And thanks always to station manager Rick Alloway and dean of the college, Maria Marin, for all they do to make these broadcasts possible. For Zach Penrice, I'm Tommy Rezac saying so long from the vault in the Haymarket, the Pinnacle Bank Arena. Again, the final, Nebraska back on the winning track. They beat Penn State. And for the second time in Lincoln, the second time in a row in Lincoln, they beat Penn State 70-54. They're now 14-12, 6-7 in the Big Ten. This has been a special presentation of Nebraska men's basketball on 90.3 KRNU and on the web at krnu.unl.edu. Good night, everybody.
This has been a sports presentation of the University of Nebraska's radio station, your home for continuous coverage of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 90.3 KRNU, Lincoln.